like cramps.
People with 10,000 years. It's nice though, basically recognized. So you get it all the way down to St. Louis. Strawberry, it's like the stuff you put on ice cream, right? It's like strawberry topping. Yeah, it's macerated like strawberry, right? Like, what do I do with it? And not a single one of the kindergarten knew what to do with it either. They all took it out of their lunch, they put it on the table, and then they put it back in the lunch.
I did.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marty, if you would please.
Caleb Conlon, you.
We need to get the recording in. I move to shift item 7.1 to the next item on the agenda because we have several guests here this evening.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And we'll start off with our esteemed guests then.
Do you want to sit in front?
Right
Right
there
here is
is
perfect,
fine.
and the microphone doesn't sound like it's amplifying you here, but it helps pick up on the recording, so you should still try to speak into it.
So there's a whole host of us here today just to talk about English language arts at the 4th Street and Red Creek levels. And so we'll just do some introductions and then we'll let 4th Street start. And so I'm Emily Kane. I don't teach necessarily any of the grade levels. I teach all the grade levels, right? But I'm a reading interventionist over at Red Creek. And I have been in that job now going on 3 years. And prior to that was a 2nd grade teacher and a 4th grade teacher. So know most of you in the room, but happy to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me.
I'm Janelle Tandy. I'm a 2nd grade teacher, and I've taught for 23 years in the district.
I'm Mary Wilson, I'm kindergarten teacher. June Johnson, first grade teacher.
Melanie Cassidy, 4K teacher.
Great, so we'll just give you some updates about English Language Arts, our new initiatives, new curriculum and things like that. We're gonna let 4th Street start.
Okay, I think the first slide is mine. So we were just sharing our 4K guarantees this year for reading and writing. So for reading, we would like students to be able to identify and name letters and recognize at least 10 of them. We do a lot of focus on those letters of their names because we know that holds a special value to them, and then we kind of expand that to their friends' names and kind of encourage families to talk about letters of their siblings or of their parents, just to kind of get that letters more important to them personally. And then with that, we also talk about letter sounds, and we also want them to be able to produce 10 to 20 letter sounds by the end of the year. And then as far as our goal for writing is we want them to have a partially accurate first name.
So then we go into kindergarten and we want our kids to know all their letter names and sounds. So we really focus on names and sounds, and then we focus on applying those sounds to make words so that the kids can decode by making CVC words. And then we want them also, we focus on them writing those, or hearing the sounds that they're hearing and then writing them into words as well. So we focus a lot on sounds, making them into words, and now our words, we're becoming more fluent with our reading. So our kids are making those gains, and we've been working on fluency currently.
And then in first grade, we demonstrate spoken words. We start with CVC words, move on to long, short vowel comparison, and then the vowel teams like ER, AR, IR. And then we move on to what we're doing now is syllables and adding suffixes to our words. We have 51 high frequency words that we want children to master reading and spelling. We move into our phonics book. We are actually starting book 5 today. We are way ahead of our pacing guide from previous years, and we are actually follow other people in other states, and we are right with the rest of the country, so good for us. In our phonics, we go to our workbook, we work on comprehension skills, writing complete sentences. We answer questions in details. All of our answers are always in a complete sentence. We work on nouns, verbs, adjectives, and in the spring we work on pronouns.
So the next portion is just going to be some priorities that 4th Street has kind of decided are their top go-tos. And so they've got 4 priorities there, and I think you have a copy of the slides. They're going to talk about phonics, reading, writing, and then their tier 2 and tier 3 level interventions. So if you have any questions about that, you can let them know. And then some next steps that they have.
Sure. So, of course, we want to figure out what is the root cause to some reading challenges and their fluency. So that is one thing that we work on discovering through some of our assessments. Then we provide systematic instruction with Hagerty and Orton-Gillingham. 4K does use Hagerty. We don't use Orton-Gillingham, but the other grades do. Kindergarten is in the process of monitoring once a month their letters and their letter sounds, and first grade is progress monitoring every 3 weeks. 4K's program is observational based. We do have some 3 times a year we have a sit down kind of assessment with them, but most of the time it's watching them during playtime or during small groups or during large instruction. And then all grade levels does some regrouping of students to meet their needs. So if we see that some kids are doing really well with letters and others are challenging, they might be working on that more often than the other kids, and we might be pushing the other ones with sounds, or working more on some of those different groupings or reading levels as well.
So some of their tier 2 work is kind of laid out there. They've got some enrichment activities and some work that they've done in the past. Is there anything you guys want to add to what's already listed there?
Top 2 target time groups are reading chapter books, and they have been since December. So they've gone through a lot of series that are familiar to many of you. And then we had first grade had the 30 book challenge. That was a lot of participation in that. They had to read 30 books, and that was due on December 20th. So that was fun.
And in kindergarten, we have a select group of kids that have been working on some reading and some writing skills for more enrichment for them as well.
And with 4K switching to all days, we've had some extra time in our schedule to be able to do some groups, some intervention groups with kids that are really struggling to catch on to basic concepts.
And then you can advance, and then they've got some current tier 3 work, so even more intensive small group instruction. Anything to add to that slide?
I know in kindergarten, the kids are focusing a lot on those letter names and sounds. We have quite a few kids who have all of them, but there's still some that are working on those.
In first grade, it's more consonant, vowel, consonant work. They're at that level. And it's 36 minutes is usually the average time for a tier 3 group. So it's quite intensive.
And then if you do notice down at the bottom, the group size, it does mention up to 4 students. So much more intensive, longer sessions, things like that. Anything else for Street? Okay, I think that goes on to Red Creek. So we'll start here. You can flip to the next slide. We've got some guarantees there for you. Our guarantees get a little bit more in depth, and so we didn't necessarily want to read them all to you for every grade level, but you do have a copy of them there. A lot of them just kind of broken down into some plain language there for you. So quite a number of reading standards at the 2nd grade level, and then a few writing and language standards as well. You can go to 3rd grade. 3rd grade gets a little bit more in depth, more multisyllabic words, things like that. Locating more details, main idea and details. Working a lot more in a paragraph form, in writing and things like that. They really get into some process writing with narrative, informative, and opinion writing. A lot more pieces to grammar, functions of a noun, functions of a verb, things like that, and how they play into a sentence more than just that who or what and what that who or what did. So a little bit more in depth there. 4th grade. 4th grade standards, just a little bit more in depth with that comprehension piece of the text. So using evidence, drawing conclusions, making inferences. They work heavily on summarizing and analyzing. They look at a lot of different text structures. They do a lot more writing composition, I would say. And so they might take a piece of writing and then take a piece of reading, a piece of text, and then they apply some writing to that, a lot more process writing, but process writing for them on a much more in-depth level, a lot more use of, you'll see graphic organizers and learning how to plan that writing and things like that. And then at the 5th grade level, just kind of taking everything that I've said and just really applying it at a 5th grade level, and then just kind of trying to have them determine themes, central idea. They work in a lot of ways in writing narrative, informative, and opinion again, but they're getting more paragraphs. They're trying to build their vocabulary and their background knowledge, which we're doing at every grade level, but we're really trying to go more in depth and have them use that vocabulary in their writing and things like that a lot more. And so you can just kind of see how it builds from 4K to 5th grade and the guarantees there. And so a few things that have been implemented for this school year with some Act 20 changes, curriculum changes we knew were coming, but we kind of were ahead of the 8 ball, I feel like, in that area. We were already looking at those curriculums, and we had already adopted CKLA skills at the 2nd grade level, and have since adopted CKLA knowledge, and Janelle will talk about that in a little bit. Grades 3 through 5 have adopted the Wonders curriculum. We do daily oral reading fluency practice, and in Tier 2, our target times are based off of Orton Gillingham placement spelling inventories, and so students that still need that at levels 3, 4, and 5 do get structured phonics instruction. Some groups are moving towards fluency, and students that don't need structured phonics anymore don't receive that, and they get what they need. So if you want to go back just one slide, I'm actually going to let Janelle take over. If you'll just back up one slide there. That'll come in a minute. I'm going to let Janelle talk about that grade 2 CKLA knowledge.
Okay, so we've been doing CKLA skills for quite some time and we really liked it. And this was a great way of using CKLA knowledge so that we teach science and social studies within our reading curriculum. So some of the things our team got together and talked about, some of the things we enjoy about knowledge. It just expands students' general knowledge and world views. Like I said, it integrates science and social studies because I know as second grade teachers, we really wanted to add more of that, and it was hard when we really want to focus on reading. So this kind of meets both of those needs. It also really works on new vocabulary to their everyday conversations, and we start and try using that quite a bit throughout our day. It helps build critical thinking and reading comprehension skills, content knowledge that translates to real world experiences. We use a lot of graphic organizers to help them. And then there are just essential questions and themes that are kind of woven throughout the entire unit. So a few things that, some of the ones that we've chosen, the first one was fairy tales and tall tales. And we just completed one called Cycles in Nature. And then we'll be working on ancient Greek civilization, Greek myths, the human body, and then insects. So like I said, we've always had scholastic news and other science and social studies stuff, but this meets the needs for both. And that's it.
Go back one more, sorry. I'm actually going to talk about 3, 4, and 5. They've adopted the Wonders curriculum. And so far what we've heard from teachers is that they're loving it. It's meeting their needs. One thing that they really noted that was going super well is that there's plenty of opportunities for rereading. And so there's some teacher modeling in there, but then it jumps into maybe the next day getting kids to reread, getting them partner reading, choral reading, echo reading, reading independently, things like that. So they really love that portion of it. The workbooks are super student friendly. They are able to kind of annotate their thinking right in their workbooks. Again, kind of the same thing as CKLA knowledge. It builds a lot of vocabulary and builds a whole bunch of background knowledge in some really engaging ways, some videos, photographs, things like that, just to kind of draw kids in a little bit more into that reading. And we know if we can build on that background knowledge, it kind of, it just really makes that comprehension piece a little bit more beefed up, I guess you could say, and kids really start to see themselves as a part of that curriculum. They have essential questions tied to each unit and things like that. They're tied to real world situations. The unit always comes back to that essential question at the end of it. They use graphic organizers, highly engaging strategy there too, that they fill out throughout the unit, going back to text structure, main idea, details all the time. They have formative assessments built right in. So they have a text selection test just on that specific story. But Wonders also builds in progress monitoring every 2 weeks that have 2 stories with comprehension questions. So really at that 3, 4, 5 level, that's what we're really trying to dig into with reading. And so to have that built right into the curriculum is super fabulous. The teachers also rave about the online resources. So not just like, yes, this curriculum resource is put together well, but we have extra. If we want more, we know where to go. It's super user-friendly and we can do that. And there are some level readers for small groups with comprehensions questions included. Some new ELA opportunities. Now we can go to that slide. We've done the Scholastic Book Fair for a long time. And so we do generate enough sales there that our teachers get access to some free books for their classrooms to put that back into their classroom library. We do have a foster parent, Grandma Donna. She works at Red Creek 4 days a week. Kids love her. She supports all of our students. She is super flexible in anything we ask her to do. And if she says, well, I'm not super sure about that, but if you just show me, I'll do it. And so she is fantastic, and she's working with some of our striving readers and some of our really high achieving readers as well. ELA tag events such as a vocabulary showdown, maybe you saw on Facebook the other day. There's also a spelling bee. Second grade was doing some reading wars between their classrooms, and so trying to get that parent engagement at home and getting students to start reading at home with their families each night and then recording that. And then the oral reading fluency bag, so we're encouraging students to read at home, but we're also practicing that in the classroom. We sent home some fantastic magnets at conferences, encouraging students to read with their family members and reach those oral reading fluency goals. And then the last part is some next steps. And so we've been doing a lot of this work with math, but our next steps are analyzing some heat map data from the state assessments. We want to align our grade level guarantees and the state standards, and also want what we're teaching to match what we think kids really need. And so we're going to be doing some of that hard work and digging in with vertical articulation across the grade levels with forestry and us going forward. And so just trying to really find what works for kids and run with it a little bit. We're going to continue to find innovative ways to increase student oral reading fluency. One of those ways is what I mentioned before, getting students to read at home with those magnets. And then we really just want to continue to dig into wonders. We haven't had it a super long time, and we feel like it is something that we can really latch on to, and our teachers are doing that. But we'd like to dig into all of the resources that are available to us when we get a little bit more comfortable using it. So, thank you.
Any questions?
Questions?
Yes, I have. Go. You want me to ask?
Well, you can go.
I have 4 questions. What is the population of Red Creek School? This DPI report card says 458 students. They have their own way of counting the students. We Black Rock Fall count differently. So 458. I've been listening and I studied back home. In my home, you folks are doing exceptionally good job.
Thanks.
My first question, are you shortage of the staff?
Shortage of resources?
Oh, staff, the teachers like you.
Oh, staff.
Staff, I like that, staff. Are you folks shortage of staff?
At this point, there is no shortage of staff that I am aware of. We have all of our teaching positions filled, and in fact, we do have a floating sub position that helps to fill those positions when our teachers need to be gone. So,
thank you. I just wanted to let you know we are the board members. We are the decision makers. If you are shortage of the teachers, let us know.
Absolutely.
We will talk to our employee, and she will hire for you. It is different. We don't work for her, she works for us. And we work for you. So I just wanted to let you know.
Thanks, we appreciate that support.
Oh, thanks. Number 2 question is, DPI result says 10% is achievement. So 10% student out of 458 meet our standards. This is pretty low. Why you did not talk the negative aspect of it? Only you spoke, and most of your fellow teachers spoke a totally beautiful, rosy picture. We did not go to school in different school just to learn one side. We read both sides, and then we work hard to come up with a solution. So I was just wondering, 10%, it says here, it's not my report, it's DPI, that we meet standard level. That's pretty low. But we have a remarkable growth, almost 40%. The children are achieving the growth appropriately, but meeting standard not. So how would you address that?
So I was just coming to address the first question. I'll have her talk about the addressing, because you asked a question about not addressing the data, and the reason for that is because I give them the direction to what they're supposed to talk about, and so that's been the same since I've been in this position. So we asked them to talk about what their current priorities are, and so for each grade level, and then to talk about if there's any new curriculum, like give an update on that because you approved those curriculum. And then the last step is what next steps are and what we're doing into the future. So as a board, if you want me to adjust what we're doing and having teachers come and talk, if you want them to talk about data, just for everyone's knowledge, we talk about data at those board meetings. You talked about it at the special session 2 weeks, so many, whatever, just recently. And so then, I don't know, want to just jump in, but that is why they don't address the data in this presentation. So the next step, so your question was about what are we doing to address students who are below grade level?
And Dr. Sullivan, before you go.
That wasn't my question. My question was, are these folks understaffed? How you pronounce it? Staff.
Staff.
Understaffed. Are they do they have an appropriate number of teachers? This is my question.
And so I just need to bring us back to some facts. So you said only 10% of our students were meeting expectations, and I just want to tell you that you are misreading that data point. I see exactly what you're talking about. You're looking at the chart on the front of it, and I can give it to Jill to put up if you'd like. That says that of our total score, the state of Wisconsin uses 10% of our score is based off of achievement. When you look at our achievement, it is 42% of our students are meeting or advanced. So I just want to make sure if we're going on the record that we're going to use accurate data as opposed to a misinterpretation.
Can I add to that too, that test is for our 3rd through 5th graders, it doesn't include our 2nd graders.
Score.
Thank you.
Our overall score is only based on 10.1% of achievement. So
I just don't want people to get the wrong impression. We would like it to be higher than 42, but 42 is a lot better than 10.
Yeah.
The score is only based on 10.
Okay. So we will put on the screen, but about the staff first.
If one of our teachers, Ms. Johnson, would like
I just wanted to say, we've only done Amplify for 5 years. And if you just give us time to, as teachers, to know the program and to grow and to take PD, we will make those scores higher. We can make 80%. I know we can. I know our students can. So, and Wanders is brand new, but we have a fantastic curriculum now for the first time in a long, long time. And I've been here a long time. If you give us time to learn and to grow, we will hit that 80%.
We are with you. I'm just wondering, do you folks have a proper number of teachers? The full staff? Are you shortage of staff? That was my question.
Okay.
So are you?
We're fine. We're good.
You good?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. We just need
458 students. How many teachers are you there?
5 first grade teachers.
First grade, 5
We're in
teachers.
4th Street, so I don't know what the population is.
Oh, you're on the 4th. I was talking about the Forest. Red Creek. So you folks are 458 students. So how many total teachers are there in elementary?
So ranges from 5 to 7, but I'll let Mr. Beck
yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
So our enrollment of Red Creek is about 458, the same as it was last year when that test was taken. We have 5 sections of 5th grade, 6 sections of 3rd grade, 6 sections of 4th grade, and 5 sections of 5th grade. Our ratio of students is 20-1 in 2nd and 3rd, and 24-1 at the 4th and 5th grade level, which is what our agreement is for the district. So we are under all of those numbers. In addition, we have 6 special education teachers with caseloads right around 12-1. So we're staffed just fine right now.
I just wanted to be sure we are here to provide you whatever you need.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, but we have all the teachers that I mentioned. In addition to special education, we have 2 interventionists, we have an instructional coach. I think staffing, we're good right now. So
Thank you so very much.
Can I do an add-on to that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think what Iftikhar is getting at is we're at 42% currently meeting. We'd all like to bring that number up. And he's simply trying to get at, what do you need? So he said, do you need staff? You said no. You said you need time. Time is good. In a magical, imaginary, ideal world, how would you bring those numbers up? What would you like?
So in a magical world,
The magical, completely made up magical world.
in a completely made up magical world, we would have students who come to us with appropriate background knowledge and vocabulary knowledge. And so if we had those 2 things in a completely magical world, we wouldn't have 42% achieving. We'd have 80 to 100% students achieving. But the things that we're implementing, background knowledge building, which is one of the most highly researched instructional strategies in ELA, vocabulary, explicit vocabulary instruction that our teachers are providing, continuous PD and support for those two instructional strategies. It's not just necessarily about the resource that you're given and the time to teach it and learn it. It's really about building that vocabulary, building the background knowledge, getting students fluent enough to decode, because we know that disfluent students don't comprehend well. And so if we don't have students who can comprehend, we're not going to have students who can move forward in achievement. And so we've really got to work there. And I think that the initiatives that we're taking are the right steps to tackle those issues. And we have the right resources, we have the right people, we have the right professional development, but we really, really, really need our time to be able to build that background knowledge and build that vocabulary and get students talking and get students doing the reading.
So in theory, who we have starting now in this curriculum, in this program in 4K, when you're saying you need students who've built this background, in 5 years, that's the kind of student body that you'll want to have, students who come up through this program. So
And
when you say you want time, you're saying you have put in place what you feel you need.
Yes.
But you wish students in the past could have had this background.
Absolutely, right? And hindsight's always 20/20, right? We always wish what we know now is what we could have done then, but that's not the reality. But the initiatives that are in place are the right ones, and we need those students that are in 4K, those students who are in kindergarten now, we need those students to be able to be exposed to that high level tier 1 instruction so that they can achieve and they can grow.
That's a question for you.
Jeanette, she wanted to ask.
Okay. No, I'm okay.
You okay?
You're fine. I went online. Go ahead.
No, they've answered my questions.
Okay.
Just want to make sure. I know the Wonders was new and comparable to what you've done in the past. Do you feel the students are grasping more with the Wonders program versus the program we used in the past?
Yes, and just to be clear, I am an interventionist, so I don't specifically teach the Wonders curriculum. I just know what I've kind of heard in conversations from my colleagues. But what I can say is it is built on the science of reading. It is built in a structured literacy approach, and balanced literacy as we had it prior wasn't meeting our students' needs. And so, yes, I do think that our students are grasping onto those concepts more. But I believe that not so much because I've been in there and watching it and teaching it. I believe that because I believe in the science of reading. And so I know that if that's what's good for kids, then our students should be achieving and should be grasping those concepts.
So is Wonders more phonics based?
There are components to that, but in grades 3 through 5, that shift kind of happens. So straight, what you would think of as foundational phonics should really and truly be cleaned up, by second grade. 3rd grade through 5th grade. 3rd grade, it's pretty natural to have some of those review concepts, so it is a little bit mixed in there. And then 3rd through 5th grade switches a little bit more to a morphology, and so learning those word roots and things like that, and prefixes and suffixes.
Yes.
So, and that is built into there a little bit, yeah.
Thank you.
My last question, how's BLAST going?
Well, I think fantastic. I work at BLAST. I love BLAST.
How many students show up every day after school?
Good question. I actually do attendance for BLAST, and so typically I would say we have anywhere between 80 and 100 students every day. Usually more towards the 100 side than the 80 side. And so I actually can't say even on like Halloween or anything like that where you might expect our attendance to be lower. I'm not even certain that we've had a day where we've been under our attendance goal for the day, and that's fantastic. And we have teachers who are reading with students during homework time every day and getting that extra practice. Aside from the homework that's assigned in class, we have teachers pulling kids to do that as well. So it's going great.
One of these days I will visit the BLAST. So BLAST is after school, is not mandatory. What did you do? 100 people are coming.
So I didn't do it. I can't claim to have done it. It's what the people sitting behind me have done. It's what Christy Roush has done. They've put into place a fantastic program that incorporates all the things that kids need after school, right? Some time to burn off energy, some brain food, they get a snack, right? Some homework time, some STEM academic time, some time socializing, right? And time with our quality and dedicated educators.
Do you folks
so that's
give
what
them a
it's doing.
food? Do you folks give them a food?
Yeah, so our school food services program, our nutrition team does provide a snack every day. And so the kids sit down and eat that, and then they head outside.
100 students. God bless you folks. You folks are number one. All of you.
Yeah. So.
You folks are number one. Attracted 100 students after school, which is not mandatory thing. That's a big one.
Is BLAST able to meet demand? Or are there more parents or more children who want to get into BLAST who can't?
So I'm not super qualified to answer that
We
question.
got our ELA people up here right now, which they're doing a fantastic job, but some of these questions may be better answered.
So I'm not.
Thank you for the segue.
Brandon, would you just, because we've got some new board member, obviously, we've got some questions about BLAST.
Yep, no problem. So, BLAST, we wrote the grant for about 72 students per day.
Okay.
And so right now we're at 88 to 100, we're over capacity and we have a waiting list. So to answer your question about are we able to support it, we're making do right now. We're in year 3 of a 5-year cycle, and every 5th year you can rewrite the grant, and when you rewrite it, you can write it for more funding so that you can staff it with more people so that more kids can come.
And those are education department grants?
Yes.
Federal.
Federal.
Is there any other questions for the ELA?
You guys are number one.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
So your bonus for spending the time, you get to be the first ones to know that we're closed tomorrow.
Oh.
You deserve it after coming to share with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Great work.
Thank you for coming.
Is that for Kohl's? What is it? Oh. I wish you would have told us today, because my wife's totally fooled us into thinking we had President's Day off. So I got an angry call from Forest Street saying, "Where's your kid?"
Nice work, guys. Thank you.
Stand up there.
Yeah, we're all having a nice breakfast.
All right.
Because she's confident in what she keeps doing, so she tells me.
Next up, we'll move back to the 6 series. We have 6.1, gifts and grants. There are none this evening. All right, next I want to talk about rescheduling the April board meeting. Currently it's scheduled for April 21st. I gotta pull my calendar here to make sure I'm saying all the right dates. Yep, so currently we're scheduled at the 21st. I would like to move to the 28th. So what happens is our board meetings fall on the 3rd Monday of the month, and the 4th Monday of the month is when, 4th Monday of April is when board members are seated. So with the election, what happens is we swear in new board members, and this would happen on the 21st, and then they would just sit not in board seats. And it's just kind of an awkward occurrence, I guess. If we moved it to the April 28th, the new board members would be sworn in that evening, and then they would immediately take their seats. The challenge with that is we have some, we have to, I don't know if ratify isn't the right word, approve the contracts. So we would need to likely have a special meeting, and the date we looked at for that is April 7th. So we're meeting on March 24th. There would be a meeting, and this is due to all the budget, right? We're getting into the whole budget cycle, which is nonstop, right? It takes us all spring. So we're meeting on March 24th. We would likely have a special meeting on April 7th. That would be very brief just to approve contracts and any other budgetary stuff Jill needs done. And then we'd meet again April 28th. Did I say that all correctly?
Close, really, really close. The only thing I would add is we really try to not ask you to vote on budget things the first time that you see them. So if, remembering we moved our March meeting to the 4th week because the 3rd week is during spring break, and so that's already a week back later, so March 24th. That change was done months ago. That April meeting, it makes a lot of sense that the board members don't get sworn in and then not take their seats, so that makes good sense per state statute. The 4th Tuesday in April is the first time they can be seated, so that means that meeting makes sense. If we wait till April 28th to have you approve the budget pieces, Marty's got a very, very, very short turnaround time to get contracts out to everybody and check for accuracy and all of those things. And so we would like to schedule an earlier meeting simply because you will have seen the budget pieces on the 24th, could approve them early April, leave more time for the contracts, and there might be some things that are still dangling out there that you have questions for that could then be taken care of later in April. The only other piece I would add to the April meeting, we are really close to having the MOU signed with the Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department, and they have asked if we would mind hosting our April board meeting out at either the tribal office building or at the D1 Center, and they would like to have a dinner and a ceremonial signing of that memorandum of understanding, and we are shooting for that April 28th date for that. So that meeting already will be filled with lots of other things, which might make sense to have another meeting that way. So.
What was the special meeting on?
April 7th, just for contractual purposes. So the, this is kind of an awkward, so that well, I guess first, the April 28th takes a board vote to move. The April 7th, I can simply call however I want to make sure that that works for everyone and we have quorum, right? So,
we don't feel that you can cover the contract piece on the March 24th meeting?
We would be asking you to take action the first time you saw it, and that doesn't always feel respectful to us, but that is 100% up to you.
Would we see it in writing a few days before like we typically do with the board packet?
So, yes, we would do our best to do that.
So basically, you grown adults read the paperwork before you come to the meeting, right?
That's your...
that would be up to the board.
Is there a possibility, I just worry about questions, so is it possible for us to just have kind of if people have questions, they might need time to like...
If you let us know your questions ahead of time, I
Right,
promise
that's
we'll
what I'm
have the answers, right? So it would take a commitment by the board to be well prepared for that 24th. We could commit to having the packet out to you that Wednesday before to give you ample time, and then you let us know any questions that could be thoroughly discussed at the open meeting on the 24th. That is your choice, 100%.
And so what, if we could, again, as a board, choose to approve those on March 24th in this already scheduled meeting. If we choose not to, we can simply schedule a meeting at that time. If there's questions, if board members are uncomfortable, we can schedule another meeting. We don't have to put the April 7th meeting on the books now.
That seems like it makes sense.
Okay.
We could manage to.
So I guess I'll make a motion to move the April 21st meeting to April 28th.
Second.
All right. Further discussion on that one? And would you like to amend your motion to move the location as well to the Ho-Chunk Nation?
If you could,
that,
I was just gonna say, they're not sure which site they want yet.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you could say, and we are open to moving the meeting if it becomes necessary. Because they wanna host a meal, they would really prefer we go out there.
And we can
Yeah.
always move, because we still have a meeting before that. We don't have to do that tonight. We can wait until that's finalized, I guess, as long as we have the date set.
I'm fine with amending it to go along with the recommendation of the nation.
Are
I
you
really
still-
would like to host a meeting.
I'll still second that.
All right, further discussion on that one. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you for that.
I just have to go and ask a question on the March 24th meeting. I'm not gonna be here. But can I just, if I can do and work the time differences, could I zoom in? I know I couldn't vote.
Well,
Can,
so if you guys approve the 0 policies tonight, you can vote.
Yep.
So that was one of the proposed changes, that board members would be able to vote electronically. So 100% you can zoom in and listen, we can set that up easily, and if the board approves those policies, you would also be able to vote.
so do we need a motion for the 24th?
No,
That was already done.
So we're all good on.
Those changed a while ago, I think.
Yep.
Come as prepared as we possibly can as a board and hopefully not need a special meeting, but if we need it, we need it. If there's too many questions. then
Yep, sounds good. Okay, so then updated calendar invites, all that will be coming out. Watch your email for that. All right, next is the school year calendar. The calendar and the voting results will look in your packet.
Does anyone have any questions about the process that we used this year? Everyone got all the information ahead of time. They generated like 11 different calendars. You can see the feedback. They really appreciated getting the opportunity to be a part of it. And today we got a packet. I forgot, when we create your packets, the bus drivers do everything in hard copy. So today we got a big stack of the bus drivers' votes, and they were all for the calendar that we recommended. So shoot, it didn't change our vote in the end when they got theirs in. So.
Shelley, with the calendar and the Jumpstart, is it I would like to ask that we, that the board would receive the letter that you would send out to parents about the optional days. And then the importance of defining that we can't count the hours of instructions, can't start curriculum or attendance, and students will not be held, if they do not attend those 3 days, they will not be held or told that they cannot participate in sports if they do not attend. So I just want that to be explained
Certainly will.
thoroughly.
And I just want to be clear, we will still take attendance and we will still call if kids aren't there, but we will 100% communicate that it is not a required day. I just want to be really clear.
Yeah, and if you could just send that and include us in the letter.
Yep. So what will happen is the calendar will go out this spring, and then it won't get talked about until August when each of the buildings starts their back to school stuff. So we will make sure to include you on that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Shelley, I might have failed, but I was looking at the coding for this, and it has the first day of school in a bright orange box, which I've been completely unable to find on this calendar.
26th is the first day.
The 26th.
The 26th, 27th, 28th, that is that orange color?
Technical
It's
first
more
day
of a
of
brown.
school is the second.
So I'm guessing when this draft was created, they didn't clean out all of the color coding from the previous one. So this is not the one that we would send out to
Okay,
families.
'cause-
We will clean it up and do the color
Graduation's a
coding.
nice little green box at the end, but I couldn't find the first day of school for the life.
And actually graduation is the 22nd. The green box is the last day for everybody. So we will definitely clean up the color coding. That was a suggestion by staff also when we let everybody generate drafts that they got a little bit confused because not everyone used the same color coding. So,
I do like how they're not going in June.
pardon me?
School is done before June anyways, so.
The Christmas break, it all depends on where the holidays fall, right? And as many people as there are, or how many opinions there are about what days should be on and should be off, so.
Yeah, it's all good really, but I just kinda like the somewhat the Memorial Day to Labor Day thing, but it doesn't really matter what I think.
You get a vote. You do get a vote.
I did see a comment about the spring break. And I remember that talking last year about every other year or something like that. Do you think that, because I had a parent ask me, well, no spring break this year, and I'm like, not that I can
So
see.
this current year we're in does have a week spring break, and so next
Right,
year
this
there
year.
isn't one, and so that would fall on the every other.
Yeah.
I don't know if the people who are invited to create calendars next year will prioritize that, but it was really interesting to me that when the building leadership teams voted, not a single one with a whole week of spring break was selected by those teams. Something that the teachers did not say when they were answering their questions, the other piece about time, if we had a daily average attendance rate of 95%, that would also give them significant time with kids. And so I bring that up along with spring break because unfortunately in our district we have a habit of people going whenever the heck they want to, regardless of what the calendar looks like. We would love it if we could get people to actually vacation at the same time when we have days off of school and increase our daily attendance rate would be another dramatic impact on our achievement.
Yeah, talking to some people about calendars, and I know that December 22nd, 23rd is contentious, and I feel for staff that, have to bring them back and try and get 2 days of learning done. But also, I talked to some parents that said, what am I supposed to do with my kids for 2 weeks? And same thing with spring break.
16 days. It would be 16 days without school. That's a long time.
And that's, especially in a community with a challenge for childcare, how do we, the 3 and 4 day weekends are tough enough, and how do you find coverage for a 9-day spring break or a 16-day Christmas break? So there's no right or easy answers to any of this. But I appreciate our staff, their voice in their work calendar. All right.
So, August, we are opening 26, 27, 28, August 2025. We will not start first trimester, right?
Correct.
We will start first September, which is
Second.
what's wrong with the first September?
First is a national holiday, so generally try to take that.
It's a national holiday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Labor
so-
Day. For all the people that work, take the day off.
Okay.
Yep.
Usually.
Yeah, it doesn't say here just, okay. So that is a day off already Monday.
Yep.
So second Tuesday of September, we'll start the first trimester.
Yep.
Thanks, it is clear. So you will send to the all parents. Good.
Is any action required on this, or is this
Yes.
just a review? And
Because
that needs,
that sets the graduation date for that year, that is the
But-
board approved calendar.
the board needs to take action today to
Correct.
approve this calendar.
Like right now.
I will make a motion
Thank you.
To approve.
to approve, yes.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
No, you cannot. I beat you. No. I'll fight you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No one opposed.
Next is the board's self-evaluation. This has been done a few different ways, right? But the normal way is there's a tool, and I can't think the name of the tool off the top of my head that we've used, where it's a survey that goes out and the board members fill that out basically on our effectiveness as a board, right? And then we usually have a special meeting where we discuss that. We can choose to do that this year, we can choose to not do that. That is up to the board as a whole, so. We've
So
got quite a few
there's
new
four of you
board-
that have done this before. Do you want to do it again, or?
Yeah, we would like to do it again.
Okay.
I don't know if it really
We got some,
is totally beneficial or not, but I mean,
we have 3 board members. Well, we have one this is his first meeting.
I don't have much to evaluate.
3 board members have
The
been here
food
less
is
than a
great.
year, right?
too soon.
I feel like it is too soon.
Okay.
I mean, because what does he have to
A-
survey? It was
absolutely.
like us coming on in April, and within 6 months, we had to do a survey. And how do you, your first year,
Right.
be able to?
Right. And that's, every third election cycle is, the largest election cycle. We're just coming off that, and, we just had to fill a board seat. So this is about as junior as a board can get. So,
Then our big guys leaving,
right. So, yeah. So if the board doesn't want to do it at this time, we can choose to do it literally any time that we want. Right?
Are the results of the previous surveys available in the shared drive for board members to review? So we could, in theory, see what people have said in the past.
Yep.
Okay.
I can look at, I'll look up which meeting it was and
yeah.
share.
It's still a self-evaluation though, so
Yeah.
it's about how honest are you gonna be with your performance.
Can I make I guess I would find value and understand, I've never done one. So I guess I would value the opportunity to look at where our evaluation points are. So taking it as a person who's just curious as to, and being able to set myself up for future success in that evaluation process would be nice.
I can definitely find the results from the last time the board took it. It is School Perceptions puts together the survey for WASB, Wisconsin Association of School Boards, and then WASB buys an account for each district, and you guys take the result or take the survey through an online survey. I have the results from the last time that it was taken, and I can happily share that, and then you would see all the questions, and then the board can determine whether you would like to evaluate, you'd like to do it again or not. It is on our core agenda, and so that is why I brought it forward, but it is 100% your decision to make.
How about go for
Go for it.
me? Okay. How about you send that out, email it to us, and we can review it and table it till next month. And
Sounds
Do
good.
we pay WASB to?
Just our membership fee. It comes
Okay,
as part
so
of
it's
our
not an additional cost.
We're not wasting things sitting there yet.
I think reviewing it and what kind of questions are in it and seeing what's been said in the past would help people know whether it's something we need to bother doing again. Sure. Right.
I found the first year that we did it, I was like, what the heck, how can I evaluate all? I mean, there was a lot in there that I really didn't feel like I could evaluate and give an honest opinion of it, because I just felt like we hadn't really experienced a whole lot.
And it's made for all school boards. Not all school boards choose to dive into all the topics that are available. So for example, I'm thinking of the political advocacy. There's a whole section on that. Our local board, up until this point, has not chosen to, as a collective unit, advocate politically. And so all of those questions were kind of like, right? I mean, they're harder to answer. So it's made for all boards, not all boards choose all those topics.
I was gonna say, is it something that we could just do a small survey for this, and Alex has a choice to take it or not?
Yep, all our choices.
So what I think we should do is, Shelley can send us the results for the last one, and we can talk about this in the future, and if there's specific topics, I mean, we can make it 3 questions long, right? And we can, that makes the discussion easier because we can dovetail that on the end of an existing meeting someplace that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we have had very long special meetings discussing every single question, and it's a full meeting, right? So, all right, so that seems like our way forward on that one. Next, with Amy's departure, she was the board clerk. We have to elect a new board clerk. So right now, Nick is the treasurer, Casey is the vice president, I'm the president, so we could choose to.
I choose Alex Wood.
Okay, so hold on, let me finish, please. So we could choose to reshape the whole thing, right? It's probably a lot simpler to just elect a board clerk, right? And the only real way I'd advocate for reshaping the whole thing is if, like, Casey were really into wanting to be the clerk for some reason or something. The duties of the clerk is, we have a deputy clerk, which is Marty, who takes care of 95% of the signing, I don't know, a lot of the signing, right? From time to time, you do have to come in and see Marty. It's not too painful to sign some things, so. And it pays an extra $100, so, per year, just to be clear, it's per year.
Per year?
Per year.
Not per hour? Okay.
But it doesn't involve any recording in session, it's not.
No.
That's.
No, you have a deputy for that, so.
Does anybody want to do this job?
So if you're making a nomination now, would be a time you could make a nomination.
Yes, I nominate for
board clerk.
Board clerk to Dr. Alex Woods.
So now you have the ability to accept that or not.
Does somebody have to second that, or do I have to accept the nomination first?
Accept the nomination.
Where's your Robert's rules?
You go by, our bylaws, I think, cover that. You do not, you just need to accept a nomination usually.
Does anybody have a problem with me doing this?
No.
Okay.
You have to vote on it.
I'll accept it.
Yeah.
Perfect, then you can, yeah, I'll accept it. Although, having me accept it to then vote me down would be.
Right.
Real power.
That's just mean, is what that is. That's just like hazing.
So we have both.
Welcome to the school board. I nominate you for clerk. All in favor?
Come on.
All opposed? Everybody raise their hand. Okay, no.
All right, so we have just to be belt and suspenders about it. We have a nomination and a second, and we have an acceptance. So I believe I protest 3 times for this one as well. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further?
For the board of clerk?
You can only nominate 1 time.
Okay, sorry.
He has to ask 3 times.
I have to ask 3 times. Are there further nominations? Last call for nominations for board clerk. Nominations are closed. We have Alex Woods is the only name on the ballot. All those in favor of Alex Woods, please signify. Aye. Opposed? All right, congratulations, Alex. Marty will have some paperwork for you after this meeting.
That's so funny.
And I think we get a signature stamp as well. All right, we've covered 7.1, 7.2, employment recommendations, nothing needing the board's approval, so that is all for your information. 7.3, a more complex one, so some good news for a change in health insurance.
There is such a thing.
It really is. So just to remind everybody, the district is part of a 27 district cooperative for health insurance. We are kind of the, we are on the eastern side. It goes all the way up to northwest. It's the district calling, telling us that we're closed. Sorry, everybody's devices are going off. Sorry. It goes all the way up to the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, or all the school districts. We're one of the larger ones in there, but some of our neighbors, Alma Center and Arcadia and Blair Taylor, but then it keeps going up, Osseo and many up there. Anyway, we have been part of Security Health Plan for, 2 cycles with this cooperative. The co-op has helped us a great deal. Sometimes it's the large group purchasing power that we get from being part of the co-op. If we had a bad year medically, we would look at an 18-20% rate increase, and that is crippling to our budget. And we never find out about that till spring. And then to try to balance that budget around that became really, really hard. So this co-op started, and now we've been able to control our increases, and they have been willing to give us a quote for 1 year, and then they will give us a cap for the next year, so that first year we know exactly what we're to use for budgeting, and then the next year we know what our maximum is. When we are bidding as an individual district, they're never willing to give us that second year guardrails, if you will, and so it's been really helpful to us. This time the co-op went out for bids, and we got fantastic coverage. We received, as a collective group, Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the WCA Group Health Trust, which is United Health, and 2 very, very, very large national chains. And when we first started our budget process with the admin team, we budgeted for an 8% increase in health insurance premium, and if the whole co-op moves to one of those choices, we're actually going to take a decrease by up to 6.85%, which is unheard of. We are so excited. And so Jill and I immediately were like, that looks like another new school bus is what that looks like if we are immediately getting that savings. And so
Is that from this year to
yes.
down?
So this is where we were this year. We were expecting to go up by 8%. It's going to swing down by 6.85. Yeah, so it's like a 14% swing is what it is. It's fantastic.
Is Anthem comparable to United?
Yeah, so that's where we're headed.
Because
that's where
in terms of customer satisfaction, there is something of a difference between Blue Cross and United.
So
one has a CEO.
We're not going to.
So from Security Health Plan to either one of those, the spreadsheet that I included for you guys had all of the different breakdowns of deductibles, and the Blue Cross Blue Shield honestly has higher levels of coverage. Our current plan does not offer a vision exam each year. We actually took out a separate policy so that our staff would still have a vision exam. We'd be able to eliminate that because it's included in both of those. They've shared with us the prescription drug price sheets, and so people will be able to look at the preventative drugs that they are currently using and what comparables exist. Just a reminder that our teachers pay 20% of their health insurance premium, our support staff pay 10%, and the district pays the other 80 or 90%. So when we go from an 8% increase to a 6.95% decrease or a 7.41% decrease, we're getting the lion's share of that, but each employee is also getting a reduction in their portion of the premium as well. So we are one vote of the 27 of the co-op, and
how does that work? Each school gets a vote?
Each district gets a vote.
I mean.
Yep, each district gets one vote. And so our votes we just got this last week, Friday or Thursday, and our votes are due this coming Friday. And so we have traditionally run a health insurance committee in the district because we know that people's healthcare is a very personal thing to them, and a lot of people who choose to be on that committee are people who have some extenuating health circumstances somewhere in their family, and I appreciate that they come and learn all the information themselves as opposed to just blindly following and then being disappointed later. Because of the aggressive timeline, we did offer a Wednesday night Zoom. Our brokers with M3 are going to Zoom with any district staff that want to be a part of that Zoom. They're gonna answer all the questions and share the information. And then the brokers will leave, and then our team will tell us which way they want our vote cast. And so that's the awkward timing of things, that we need you to, because it's a significant expense. Jill, about how much do we spend on health insurance benefits?
About 3.8 million.
Yeah, so it's a significant expenditure for the district, which is why it always needs board approval. But we're in an odd spot with whether you want to preempt the district staff and tell them which one you want the district to cast our vote for, and understand that we're part of a co-op. Whichever way you tell us to cast our vote, it still might not go that way, right? Because the other 26 districts might choose something different. So in the end, we have to take what the co-op does.
So Shelley, just curious, because I'm looking at network provider.
Yes.
So would that include our providers here locally? And then does that include like Gunderson Health? Does it include the Mayo? How far does that stretch for our?
Yep, great question. So in our current with Security Health plan, there is an upcharge to include Gunderson. Security Health is part of the Mayo network. And so our employees who live down by La Crosse and really want to keep Gunderson, there's been an upcharge the last 6 years since we started, however long, 8 years that we've been with them. There's been an upcharge, and we've passed that on to the employees so that they could still use Gunderson. And then Mayo was the plan that came with it. Both Gunderson and Mayo are already a part of both of those. And we believe that Black River Health is a part of both of these, but they are confirming that for us, just to be 100% sure.
That's what I'd like it to be able where people can still
keep it local.
Local.
Yep. And still work for our commuters. I mean, that was the challenge with Gunderson. The people that live in La Crosse really wanted something else.
And the health board will have all that information before they have to make a decision.
Absolutely. On Wednesday night, they'll have all those information, all
And
that info.
then they'll come to a decision, and then does that have to come back to us to approve?
That's what I'm asking you guys, what you want to do. If you are willing
To give a
say
prior approval to the decision that they make, is that something we're allowed to do?
you 100%, you can say, I value the voice of the employee insurance committee and I support whichever way they vote. You can say that.
And so they could vote for either WCA or Anthem, but not the current plan, or they could go with the
I'm gonna
current
take
plan?
Security Health off the table for our team, and they are already very clear on that. It would be incredibly irresponsible to agree to pay 14% more in premium for lesser benefit. That makes zero sense, and we have to be.
WCA and Anthem are very close.
They're very close.
So I would say,
Be like 8.5, right?
Yeah.
2.5 plus.
Oh wait, yeah, I'm sorry, the increase was 2.5, thank you, Jill.
Is there a board member that would attend that meeting?
You can if you want to, I can.
I'm just curious,
Yep.
If there would be one who can sit in on it.
Yep.
And then is that something that we could, give that person the permission to?
So what could happen, go ahead if you want to explain.
I was just gonna make a motion because we're gonna waste a lot of time.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion that we give the administrator the ability to act upon what the name of the committee again, Shelley?
It's the insurance committee.
The insurance committee, whatever they choose to vote for, that Shelley can then take that and act as our decision to present to the larger group, which we all very much understand that you could pick the one that doesn't get picked by the other 26 districts, and you get what you get.
Right.
I second the motion.
Discussion?
Yes, further discussion on that one?
A discussion is a 7 point, Shelley, are you on your notes 7.3?
Yeah, we're on 7.3.
7.3 if she.
What would you like?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sixth paragraph, point number 2. It says you could direct Jill and I to meet with the insurance company.
So that's what we've just done.
Yeah, and our broker to come up on Thursday for the board approval. I think so that is a good idea.
There's already been a motion made that is not that.
Is not that?
Correct.
Well, we basically, there's been a motion made to give the health board committee the opportunity to make their decision known and have Shelley act on their recommendation. That's been seconded, so we as a board have to vote on whether we agree for that.
I don't.
Okay, so let's vote on that?
Yes, any other discussion on that one? All right, so again, the motion before the board is to authorize Jill and Shelley to vote based on the Zoom meeting on Wednesday and try to pick the best in their.
And they've already said that the old plan is off the table. It comes down to
Yep,
between
down
United
to two,
and
yep,
Blue Cross, basically.
down to two candidates.
About 15,000 difference, which is.
Yeah, there are differences in what's covered in
Okay.
deductibles and stuff, so.
So, all those in
I
favor?
don't know what we're diving into.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One guy opposed.
Okay.
Fine.
All right, 6-1, motion carries. All right, we are up to 8.1 student success report, the ACT, pre-ACT. Sure, yep, yeah, we can. Take that brief recess.
I had illusions, I wasn't I'm gonna eat the cookie. What time is it? It's
Cookie time.
7 o'clock at night. I'm chewing the cookie. It's cookie time. Cookie time, you can get some more water.
Did anybody staying active or no?
I'm not in medical circle, people I talk to. Once you get a little further south.
It was turkey when I had, so no. Yeah, I didn't see anything marked special. Like, no pork, so thank you, safe.
I've been on Blue Cross, they're
Start
taking
with
it
a
Gunderson, they're taking it town, they're taking it all over.
Thanks.
Never. Makes the
All
problem.
my coworkers used to many of the cities had a very similar diet as what you do, so. Except he's full vegetarian.
So was it Gunderson and Marshfield that we're going to merge? Who was it, Gunderson?
Marshfield has, but
Sanford Health.
Sanford or Stanford? What is it?
Sanford.
Sanford Health and Marshfield have, yeah.
Gunderson merged with
Who was it? I can't remember.
Bellin.
Bell and
Bellin,
Amplify.
yes.
Yep.
They amplify empathy. That's what amplify means. Creepy sounding corporate name.
In the end, it will probably end up being like 3 hospital chains, period, right?
Well, we're back.
Okay, so earlier tonight, we talked about, our elementary school teachers asking for more time, but like we talked to any of our high school and middle school teachers, they're gonna say, if we don't have time, we're gonna work with the students that we have right now. And so what we're talking about is some of the work that's been done. I labeled it ACT and pre-ACT update, like heavy on the assessment idea, but it's really about all the shifts and all the work that they've been doing at the high school to help impact achievement. And so that's what these slides are all about. And so this first slide is how Ms. Penza really talked about addressing the step and like thinking about ACT just isn't about this assessment. It's also about college and career readiness. And we know that students that score at that benchmark level on the ACT, that they are college and career ready. And so it's about making sure that all of our students are ready to go. And so that's where that state report card comes into play in alignment with our assessment, that we want to ensure that the work that we are doing in the classroom aligns with the work that's being assessed that we see on that report card, because it's about college and career readiness. And so to that end, over the past 2 years, we have been meeting with different teams from the high school and really working through what is assessed on those assessments and ensuring that that's what's happening in the classroom. Additionally, what you'll see, or what you've seen as you look through your packet, is Kim really went out, Kim Penza, and looked for another way of preparing for the ACT test, and she did that through the vendor of Chalk Talk. So what we want to do, going to the next slide, is these are the shifts. So as a group, you've asked me to talk about what are the things that we're actually doing to impact the achievement of our students. And so this is some of that work that's being done at the high school this year and last year. So what we did from an assessment perspective that's really ties into the efficacy, the self-efficacy of our students and our teachers, is in the past we didn't do a fall assessment. And now we did a fall assessment in both the ACT and pre-ACT. So students know where they are in the fall. And because of that, then students are able to look at their score, their achievement score, and make a goal, or like to know what progress would look like or what growth would look like. The goal is for students to increase their score by 2 points in ELA and math. Unless they're at a 25 on that ACT, and then it's a different kind of ballgame once you get up into those upper scores. So there's that shift in assessment. We had this fall assessment, and we're going into the spring assessment, which is also a change. We are going to be testing the ACT online for the first time. In the past, we did it on paper. And so all of our students have been assessed online all the way through in the Wisconsin Forward, iReady, or MET, however, and they're used to that online assessment. And in the past, the first time they were assessed via paper was on that ACT test. So we're hoping to get a more accurate measurement of our student knowledge based on that shift in assessment type. The other thing that is a really big shift is the high school changed their schedule, and they use that Chalk Talk platform that I was talking about is also a place where I'll talk a little bit more about that in another slide, but that Chalk Talk is another way of helping students assess. In the past, we had, they got to do like a boot camp right before, and we didn't mandate it for all students. Now, all students are working on these ACT, which are really career college ready skills, all year long in their advising. I was just thank you. All right, so on the next slide.
Hey Nicole, can I,
Yeah.
question quick, you talked about the difference between the virtual and the paper test.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go to take the ACT for real, what will that be?
Online.
Online?
Virtual.
And how will our students, since we have such a high percentage with IEPs, like what are they able to get for additional help? Is it still based on their IEP?
Yep.
Or is it different?
Still based on their IEP, all those accommodations. I was working with Melanie today on that. We do have 4 students where that IEP team determined the best way to go about their assessment was via paper. So that's still an option. So there's accommodations like the computer can read aloud versus having to have a reader read aloud to them, which is also something they're used to from the Wisconsin Forward or in previous assessments. That's a great question, thank you.
Thanks.
So this slide are just little snips from that platform I was talking about, Chalk Talk, and it's got a lot to it and what the students, our teachers can do. So across the top, it just shows us that teachers can use Chalk Talk whole group, so they can teach a concept to their whole class. They can do a small group based on assessment, and then there's also personalized practice and intervention. I would have loved this when I was a kid. I think it really levels the playing field. Like I went to school with kids who got to have individual, because their parents had a lot of money, then they got to get tutored. Everyone in our district has access to this, and I feel like this is good stuff. So I feel really passionate about it.
You mentioned that Kim picked this out.
Kim.
So was this part of the high school's budget, or how did you find the cash to bring this in?
Nicole is helping me pay for it a little bit through her curriculum instruction budget.
Okay.
But we'll probably be splitting up in the future, right? But it's part of our budget, just as something that we thought was really important. There's other districts, I went to a conference, right, and other districts are using it that have also seen it, like growth in their scores. And again, just really wanting to be able to have that growth measure was kind of one of the reasons we thought it was super important.
So can any of it tie into 8th grade curriculum as they're stepping into the high school, or is that too early to be starting to
So really right now Chalk Talk is really for the ACT. We had our 9th and 10th graders take it for the pre-ACT, but it really is based on a lot of those 11th grade concepts. Still really great practice, and they're getting practice with algebra skills that they're getting right now. But so I think 8th grade would be a little too soon. But with our vertical alignment that we're doing between the middle school and high school, a lot of those standards and concepts that they're teaching in middle school are feeding right into our high school concepts, so it's all getting aligned right to that ACT standard.
So when you're talking about the personalized instruction here, how many students are taking advantage of that?
So actually, there's a slide, but here we go. So we every week, the personalized practice, I can run a chart that tells me in every advising, so it's broken up by advising how many kids are participating. And we've gotten really great partnerships with places like the hospital and Northern Family Farms, and we have a donut prize every Monday for the advising that has the highest percentage of students doing the individualized practice. And donuts are really rewarding to kids for some reason. They really want to do it. It'll depend on the week. So when math is the lesson of the week and the practice of the week, you see the numbers dip of amount of kids wanting to practice that math. When there's English, it's a little bit higher, but we have anywhere from 86% of it advising every week practicing to sometimes it's 20% of that advising practicing. So not every kid is taking advantage of it, but they are getting more practice than they ever have on those ACT concepts.
And I would just caution, like with all of this, is our first year of implementation. So you heard our elementary teams talking earlier about giving us time to learn how this works, and that whole like just knowledge about how can we do this and how can we motivate our students in front of us to do this work. And so that's part of this with Chalk Talk. This is the first year of implementation. It's important to be patient with new programming or new platforms when we are starting them.
And so Kim, you did say that it's not for the pre-ACT. They can attend if they want to?
So they are still doing the practice, but it is really leveled at the ACT level right now, but they have algebra practice, right? So all of our 9th grade students are in algebra, so they are getting some of that same practice.
Okay.
So I tried to pick, so every week I go in and I pick a whole group instruction that the class is going to do, and I can base that off of how many ACT questions are underneath that area. So it gives me a whole chart to try to pick what's going to be the biggest bang for our buck, right? Like how many questions are in the ACT in that area? Let's pick that one because they have 8 instead of just 1. And then I try to level it based off of what that grade level would need or know, right? Freshmen, and not a lot of them are in geometry, so our freshman classes haven't been doing geometry skills, right? Because that would be a little unfair. So we're trying to practice the things that they would have already had access to try to supplement that learning that's taking place in the classroom.
Just so I get a handle on how this operates, that's when you pick a whole group instruction, you pick that off the rack. Is that done asynchronous? Everyone contributes and then someone logs in.
So there's 2 different things happening every week. So our teachers are expected to do a lesson, a whole group lesson on what subject was picked. So I think last week it was lines and geometry for the 10th and 11th graders, right? And they pick a day and they do a whole group instruction to their advising on that lesson. There's a whole PowerPoint that they walk through. There's questions that the kids go through. The group practice right now is optional. It's like if you have time, do that group practice. But then every week there's individual practice on that skill assigned to the kids. So then they go in on their own and practice that individual practice. That's what's assigned to them. It's open access to all of the individual practice. So each kid could go in every day for hours if they wanted to and do their own individualized practice based off of their scores from taking the original test in the fall. So it kind of levels to what they need and will give them additional practice.
Maybe you said this and I just didn't catch it. So individual practice being like test questions or like trivia questions about whatever topic is, if let's say they just keep bombing a section, is there a individual instruction that can be administered with that to?
Yep, it also then has Khan Academy videos and things like that linked to it. So if they're still really struggling with that concept, they can look, it's called a study hall, so they can go into that area and practice or get more information and teaching on that subject.
So then do they get pizza for that part? Or?
No, just donuts. That's all we have right now. Would you like to bring on pizza? I have to pick it up every Monday, so I need no more food that I have to go pick up.
I have a question for Jeanette, Nick Helsted, and Casey Wiz. When you folks were in the 8th grade in Black River Fall, you were taking ACT test?
No.
Did you?
No.
You?
No, not that many years.
Okay, now I have a question for you folks. How much one ACT test cost? How much money we pay? $25 per student or $30?
It's our kids'
family pays.
Oh, it's a free.
The ACT is state mandated now, and it is a test that is our state assessment. So our families don't have to pay for that test. It's a free assessment.
It's totally free, right?
Yep.
So school don't pay
for just like we don't pay for the Wisconsin Forward, we do not pay for the pre-ACT.
But this
Secure.
practice ACT
Yes.
test, we do pay for the practice.
Yeah, we do
Practice.
pay for it.
But I want to differentiate though, the pre-ACT Secure and the ACT given in the spring, that's free. The work that we're doing in the fall, that has a cost to it. And I would have to double check what the Chalk Talk cost, it's not, it's lower, I'll get that back to you.
Yes, and as Dr. Wood was asking about IEP students are taking test of ACT. IEP, this is a time pressure test. I took it, ACT. It's a time pressure test. So IEP student should be exempt from the time pressure.
If an IEP team meets and determines that a student needs an accommodation, like extended time over days,
Yeah.
that is what that specific team would make for that specific student.
Not all
Generalize as a group.
IEPs. Shady says not all IEP. If the team make a decision that they need an extended time to comprehend the question before they pick an answer, right?
Correct.
Thanks.
Thank you. So on the next slide, I just provided this as context. So these are the benchmark scores that you would look for on the pre-ACT and ACT for readiness along each grade level in each area in the fall and in the spring. So those are just the numbers that you kind of look for. So this is kind of the, I should let Kim talk about her exciting findings. So this is just some data pulled out from Chalk Talk. And just like that first score, that first idea that 74% of our 11th graders increased their score from September to November, that's exciting. The average scores from November to November was that, the increase was an average of 0.81. I don't want to read all of these to you, but just there's a lot of exciting stuff in here. And you can see that same story repeat in ELA, even bigger than in science. Math, as Kim explained earlier, there's less practice happening and there's a corresponding less growth, right? So practice, more practice equals growth. And the really, really interesting thing is that last bullet point. The student had the most practice in English. He had the most practice sessions logged, and he had the biggest score increase, 23 to 32 in November. So we're seeing, we want to see that repeated across students, but the more we practice, the more that score grows, and those are exciting numbers and a good indicator that it's an initiative that's on the right track.
How much communication is going out to the parents of the youth on their participation?
So not on like their daily participation, we had students so they took a test in September and then we did it again in November. And after the November test, they sent an email home to their families about where their scores were in September, where they were in November, what their goal is for the spring, and then taking steps of what they're gonna do to achieve that. So that was sent home to all parents by their advisors. To all parents by the student in their advisings. And then usually in every newsletter I send home, I include some sort of, here's what we're doing, remember this is our goal, to just kind of keep that at the forefront of the things that we're doing at the high school. But there's not a lot of communication like your kid is only doing 5% of the work. We haven't really gone to that step yet.
Given you guys said you hadn't taken them, what kind of information is going out to the students and I guess to the parents about the process of ACT, what that means for their kiddos, and how do you increase interest, especially when that brain development for long-term isn't quite as robust?
So in all the things that I do to talk about the ACT is I try to talk about it as not just a college entrance exam, right? That is what most people know it for, but it's good practice for things like the ASVAB that you're going to take for the military. There's placement tests. The tech schools will take it as well, but also just knowing that they are improving and growing and the things that they're learning in the high school is helping them achieve greater and bigger things. It's like this outside measure telling them, hey, this is what I know and what I'm gaining here at Blackbird Falls High School. So I try to talk about it in that terms because otherwise, yes, we have kids that are like, it's a college test, I'm not going to college, right? And so it's how we talk about it and prepare kids to think about that test.
The other number that we talk about a lot is that an 18 is considered employable. So with an overall score of 18, you're considered to be gainfully employable in whichever field you choose. So that's another talking piece for it.
And so this slide has some of the numbers that show the number of practice sections along each of the skills that are taught. So the numbers are pretty big. And then I just thought I'd take the opportunity to remind you that we have the grade 8 teaching strategies. And it's not just about this thing that we're doing during that advising time. I'm sorry, I mix up schools and the name. The advising time really is about that core instruction that our teachers are employing every day, and those really strong teaching practices that are going to help us have that big impact on student achievement that we're all looking for. So this is those grade 8 strategies. That means that they're highly vetted in the research for increasing student achievement. And so we'll be talking more and more about these grade 8 strategies as we move and set goals into next year about how we're going to work along our continued growth and continuous improvement.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
We are on to the 9 series. Monthly expenditures, as always, in your packet. Questions for Jill, otherwise looking for approval on that.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
No discussion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, preliminary budget review.
Okay, I just wanted to take an opportunity tonight and talk about some of the, I guess, big rocks of building the budget. We don't have any proposals for you tonight, but just want to show you kind of what our enrollment trends are doing and how that affects the revenue limit. So a lot of numbers, but I guess what to cue in on is the far right column. It's our revenue limit. FTE, and the revenue limit really is our main source of revenue for the district. It's our property taxes and equalization aid, and it is the most that we can get from property taxes and equalization aid. So there are other revenues outside the revenue limit, but the enrollment that really guides the revenue limit is a full-time equivalency. So, for example, 4-year-old kindergarten now is a 0.6 because of the amount of hours that the kids attend, whereas a kindergarten or first grader are a full-time equivalent of 1.0. So in the end, our revenue limit for the last 5 years, you can see we've been dropping, had a little uptick for 23-24, but then for 24-25, our enrollment went down again. So we're in a declining enrollment situation, which certainly isn't odd for the state of Wisconsin, or the nation for that matter. But those are our revenue limit. Those are our full-time equivalencies that we have for our students. So that's the trend from the last 5 years. And then when we're looking forward, forecasting, we take those numbers and we can look at what's called a cohort survival method, and it helps us determine perhaps how many kids are going to, as they say, survive from one year to the next, right? So again, talking about resident students and going through the calculation a few different ways, we're looking at 1,630 students. So that's a drop in our FTEs by about 29 from 24-25 to 25-26. And the biggest part of that, and I'll go back, is there are 142 12th graders right now. So they are leaving us, and a smaller kindergarten class will be coming in. So that is probably the biggest. There's changes all throughout the grade levels, but that's the biggest dip. And the enrollments then are taken, they're multiplied by our 3-year rolling average of our FTEs. So for this year, 11,000 was our, I'm getting myself mixed up. For 24-25, the base, so the base comes from the prior year, and the base was 11,000 per student. And then that's multiplied by the 3-year rolling average. So that created an $18 million base revenue. But then for this year, again, we were able to add $325 per student. So that revenue per member that we're able to use for our revenue limit was $11,325. And then we multiplied that by the next 3-year rolling average. So for 24-25, our revenue limit with no exemptions was $19,048,000. But comparing that to 25-26, doing that same methodology, just moving everything forward 1 year, we added another $325 per pupil. That is under what's in statute right now for our per pupil revenue limit increase. So $11,650 becomes our new multiplier by our new current year average FTE of $1,678. And part of that $1,678 is an unknown number. I mean, we're estimating, as I told you, we estimated $1,630 on the last slide. So 1/3 of that number is an estimated amount going forward. So that's a new revenue limit, $19,548,000. But then we have to look and see if there's any exemptions. So sometimes if your revenue limit, and this has happened to us, if your revenue limit is less than the prior year base, you get an exemption for that. The state helps you out, smooths that out for you. We don't have that in any of these 3 years, but we are a declining enrollment district. So if you move down the chart a little bit, using the numbers that I'm estimating for our enrollment, we'd get a declining enrollment exemption. So we'd add $46,000 to our revenue limit. And then there's the private school voucher aid deductions. Those are added to our revenue limit to pay for the deductions that we have to pay out of our equalization aid. So we get to add those in on the revenue limit, but they're out back on our equalization aid, so we get less aid. So with all that said and done, our revenue limit would be at $19,689,000 for next year, compared to $19,167,000 for this current year, which is an increase of about, and I have this number wrong here, I apologize for that. So it's an increase of about $545,000.
Jill, can you go back one slide, just one
Sure.
real quick question. The non-recurring referendum, so I'm assuming districts that don't have a recurring referendum, that could be a potential
Correct.
kickback. So even though we don't have a recurring referendum, they're not giving us anything.
Correct, so
So
this
what's
is
the-
where you actually, if you had a referendum and it was non-recurring, so we are going to go out for 3 years. This is where you would put that dollar amount on the revenue limit worksheet. So if it was for $1 million, it would say $1 million here, and it would add it into your revenue limit here.
Okay.
But then what happens is they take it back out the next year, you add it back in. It's not added to your base going forward.
Jay, I have a question. Private school voucher aid deduction, 94,550. How many students we are paying in the different schools?
Yeah, so this isn't open enrollment, this is voucher. These are the private schools that we're sending funds from our equalization aid. We send them to the private schools. So those are those voucher students. I would have to look to see how many kids that is, because elementary is a different amount than high school kids. So a high school kid might be $12,000 and an elementary kid is $8,000.
So it's not a ton of kids.
Not a ton.
Okay.
Fair amount, and for a community our size who doesn't have a private school in our
Right.
district, that's pretty significant. Just because you brought up open enrollment, I just want to clarify, when a family decides to open enroll, we get notified, so we see the list of all of those families that are open enrolling out, so we get to call them and ask if there's anything we could do to make them want to come back or any of those things. Voucher kids, we don't get to know who they are, that's all handled at the state level, and we can't even know, like we can't verify where they're going or where they live or any of that. Each district just gets a dollar amount and doesn't get to know anything about those kids, and so that's
So these,
Frustrating.
The number is somewhere in the 11,000 range for, so if you're at 94,000, you're talking about like 8-9 kids?
Right, but to Shelley's point, when you don't have a private school in your community, I mean, that amount is a lot more in La Crosse, for example.
Does that include all homeschooled kids?
No,
that's
homeschools
different.
don't show up anywhere on our limit because they are not part of any system.
Okay, so they're going somewhere, like
Yeah,
an
to a private
online,
school. To Aquinas
full-time.
It could be, yeah, it could be Toma, it could be Aquinas, it could be any of them in Eau Claire.
So Jill, taxpayer are paying for the student for the private school?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a huge debate.
Debate
So
about
all the
voucher schools.
students will run away to the private school.
If you make voucher schools attractive enough, it's possible.
Private school, I'm from private school. Private school is a big deal. This is a law that the government, the taxpayer has to pay to the students if they are choosing to go Harvard or Yale, all those private schools.
Those are colleges.
I'm just giving example, or private high school, middle school, elementary. So the taxpayer are paying it. This is a law, right? Must be a law. I don't know the law.
We didn't volunteer, right? So it's a law.
The
It's
school.
a law, right? We don't volunteer it, right?
Yes, and some people want to increase that to encourage kids to get more taxpayer dollars to go into private schooling. Generally, people who want their kids in private school.
So that much money, 94,550, seems like 180 students.
No.
No.
Or 100?
About 8.
No, like 8.
8 to 11.
Yeah, each student that chooses to go to private school costs the school district $11,000.
11,000 only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ish. Yeah.
And that's just an estimate for next year.
Yeah, 11,000, okay. So they give private
So
schools.
when I went to the, I was acting as the delegate. This was one of the questions that we as a board can review for next year because they advocate on a state level for these types of laws and changes. We hadn't really discussed it ahead of time, so I just wung it. But there is a huge debate about voucher schooling, and that if we divide it up, and so taxpayers can see that they're paying outside to private schools, that people would be concerned about that. But it also actually also creates an opportunity for funding separations that other states who have done it have seen voucher programs really take off because parents are like, oh, I can send my kid to a private school and get some funding. So at some point as a board, because we do vote on that annually at the conference, we should probably have that conversation on how we want that to look.
When you listen to any political debate about education, the voucher in every backpack is 100% one of the most hotly debated items. Should public tax dollars go for religious education? Should the tax base be funding two systems? At what point is it separate but not equal, right? Like there's so many sides to that argument. It would certainly be worthy of some conversation.
Yes. And plus, I just don't like voting on everyone's behalf if I don't know where you stand on it.
That's why we sent you though.
Thanks.
Taxpayer shouldn't be paying for private.
Jill, just a question on the students that open enroll out. What is the percentage the district pays to the other district?
What is the percentage of?
How much of our, so we end up with what that student would receive, correct? 11,000, say. And they open enroll to another district, neighboring district. How much of our money goes to that neighboring district?
Good percentage. I don't know right offhand. I'm trying to remember what the open enrollment amount is right now. It's probably $8,000 to $9,000. So we get to claim those kids on the revenue limit and count them to, have the revenue. But then in our aid, we send about $8,000 to $9,000 out. I can look it up. It's not set for this year yet, but I can tell you what last year's amount is.
That would be nice.
Special education enrollment, open enrollment amount is different, even though our reimbursement from the state is not different. And so if it is a special education student that open enrolls, I think that transfer amount is $12,000.
I think that's right.
Even though we don't get $12,000 for that student. So there's a different set rate for a special education student.
So one of the first things that we do is compare the revenue limit from this current year to next year. We're estimating next year. We don't know all of the factors until September and October when we can finally set our budget, but our fiscal year starts July 1st, so I just wanted to remind everybody of that. So there's a lot of estimating and in our budget process at this time of the year for sure. We're going off the best information that we have, but when you're estimating a third of three, one of 3 years for the student enrollment, that is a challenge already. But when we look at the two revenue limits for this year compared to what we're estimating for next year, again, I said the 1630, the third Friday September account, that's totally an estimate based on that cohort survival method. We're looking at about 70 for summer school, and for the revenue limit, we get to claim 40% of those, so 28 would be the number that we get to claim on our revenue limit worksheet for summer school. That number could change depending on our programming that we do for this summer. We have an idea of how the transition days, those jumpstart days worked. We get to count those in that number as well. But again, we're just kind of building off of the last couple of years and trending forward. So with all that said, it's just over $500,000 of new revenue limit funds. But there are some other things that we need to adjust for our revenue. Our per pupil categorical aid is just that. It's $742 per pupil. That's outside the revenue limit. And since our enrollment is going down, there's going to be a decrease likely in that amount. The SAGE aid that we receive from students coming in from other districts, we're estimating that to go down a little bit. What I did not include here is the cost of open enrollment of our students going out. We need to do a little bit more in-depth look at that. Our special education aid that we receive, state law actually says 33% right now, and we're estimating about 31%. So every dollar that we spend on special education over and above the entitlements that we get from the federal or state level, we receive 31%. Last year it was supposed to be about that amount, but it ended up being closer to 30%. It just depends on what other districts are receiving, how much we spent as compared to other districts in the state, and how much aid that we're going to receive. We had more costs in special education last year, or in 24-25, I'm sorry, the aid follows the next year. So in 24-25, I'm estimating that we're going to have more costs than we did the prior year. So our aid's going to go up a little bit, maybe by $77,000. But that's something we'll continue to monitor and watch as the year goes on.
Would that cover the additional costs?
No. That would be a third of the additional costs, basically. The high cost special education aid, this would be new to us. So some tuition amounts that we've had to pay for kids that are going to Toledo and La Crosse, and the cost of the van, the cost of the driver, the cost of the aide that rides in the van, all of those kinds of things. That is a newer program, and we are going to apply for some high-cost special education aid. You basically have to have costs over $30,000 to apply for this aid even. I have no idea how much we're going to get. The formula is rather complicated until I get in there and do the actual claim and do the worksheets. So I'm going to say around $50,000 for that high-cost special education aid. Could be new aid for us to help offset those costs.
Could that include aids for like summer school and things like that?
No. So it's based on, no, not necessarily. If those kids have other one-on-one aids or things like that, yes, those would be included, but summer school, I'm not really sure.
Summer school is really its own financial animal. That's why there's that one line item on top that talked about the
Yeah.
summer school.
I
So
just
they,
didn't know if that's how they
Yeah.
could divide some of that out into, I don't know, it's just its own thing. Okay.
And the other thing that we haven't seen yet, although it happened beginning of this year and we won't see it until the end of the year, is if our transportation aid, just our general transportation aid will go up due to those summer school transition days because we were transporting kids. And so there's formulas based on a number of miles kids live from school. We haven't done summer school transportation for quite a while, but those 3 days, those would be considered summer school transportation. So we could see an increase in our aid for transportation overall as well. Any questions on all of that? So then we're looking at new dollars of about $648,000. A big chunk of that will come from our increases for our staff salaries and fringe. And our fringe benefits are like the Social Security, Medicare, and retirement that we pay on those salary increases. So that pool of 3% is for all salaries. That doesn't mean every individual is getting a 3% increase necessarily. It depends where teachers are on the salary schedule, if they're moving steps, what we put on those steps. It just all depends. So but that gives us a pool of dollars to start to work with. We want to do some comparisons. We may be back to you at the next meeting saying, oh, we think actually we need a little bit more. If we look at some of our support staff and how they fare with the CESA 4 area or other positions just locally. That's something we've looked at in the past. So here's our health insurance, a decrease. I just factored in about $208,000 depending on which plan we go with. That number's going to change a little bit. That was a conservative amount. And then we always compare our new hires versus our retirees. Our retirees are receiving an HRA at $7,000 a year for 5 years. So some of those are dropping off, but we haven't heard of any teaching retirees yet to know if there's going to be some savings for new hires just in salary. So that number will change as we go through this process over the next few months as well. And then the other piece that you haven't seen yet, but we're recommending to give our building budgets, our school buildings, a little bit of an increase in their per pupil amounts. So their buildings are given a per pupil amount times the number of students that they have. That's their budget for their building. And then they pay for all their supplies, for their copy machines, for their field trips, for anything else. PD perhaps might come out of their budgets. So all of those things come out of their budgets, but they haven't had an increase in those per pupil amounts for a while.
I have a quick question, and it doesn't pertain necessarily to this portion of building budgets, but it does pertain to building budgets. I spent the weekend with Little Tiny People, so this is coming from the mouths of babes. But have the buildings been really cold lately?
not for financial reasons. It is our challenge, yeah.
Okay,
There's-
and I wasn't sure if it's because it's really cold outside, but they're like wearing full coats inside.
So there was some significant challenges in one of the wings at Red Creek, so he started running the heaters all night to try to compensate. So it's not a financial, it is a systems problem. I don't know if you have more details that you want to share. But they've been struggling with the settings over at Red Creek, and so we've called partners. The vendor is very slow to respond, and so we've started leaving it on full occupied overnight to try to help some of that, but there definitely have been some uncomfortable days.
Okay.
Yeah, not for fiscal
Financial
reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
So we did propose, and you'll see that when I pull up the next sheet, but proposed a 5% increase for and the principals don't even know this yet, but to help them out with, inflationary costs that they've had for their supplies, and things of that nature too, so. And again, that's built totally on enrollments, so if their enrollment's going down in their building, they're gonna see a little bit of a dip in their building budget as well.
I know this might be insane, but there's no way to lock in an automatic boost relative to national inflation rates for the expenditure costs of buildings.
So no other part of our school finance is locked in, and so that would mean if they were gonna be that one protected piece, that means everything else would always be on the table. So over time, what we've done is, the one example I always think of is, Kim said before that Nicole helps to pay for part of that Chalk Talk. There was a time when all of the grade level workbooks would come out of the building principal's budget, and now those come out of the district C&I budget. And like the Skyward license used to be spread out amongst everybody. We've been taking more of those costs to the district office so that they can be more the consumable supplies that they use. I think one of the primary expenses is the copy machines, right? Those leases are so darn expensive, and that is a 100% convenience factor. Teachers are in a rush and they need it when they need it. So we try to offset the building expenses by district things when possible, but then there are the consumables where they'll have their storerooms of the markers and the colored paper and all of that stuff. But if we locked them into that increase, there's no other part of our system that is locked in, and so that would mean every year, every other piece was scrambling for that piece. So I guess it would be worth the conversation with the principals, see what they would prefer. But right now, like professional development, I don't think the buildings are sending a lot of professional development. They always go to Nicole for professional development.
I was giggling about that, I was like, PD, yeah.
Back when I was a principal, I had to pay for it myself. Now someone asks about PD, they're like, Nicole! So we just keep moving some of those expenses as opposed to trying to ask the buildings to manage all that stuff. Not a perfect system, but.
And just a couple side notes, so each percentage increase in the salary pool with the fringe benefits I mentioned is about $160,000. Each percent increase in health insurance is about $32,000, so. Those are kind of the numbers that we key on when we're talking about budget.
So I think a good thing to take from that is the fact that there could be that 208 that comes in from the health insurance, right? So say we were to take compensation and move it to 4%, you're looking at 48,000 extra, that type of thing, right? So if you wanted to invest back into the staff with those savings, or you talked about a bus, but yeah, okay.
This is an unusual situation, folks.
Right.
I
So-
haven't seen
We're not usually black and not bright
surplus,
colors
yeah.
early.
I hate to call it surplus because it's really not. We've had a lot of things we've kick the can down the road kind of thing and keep cutting from our maintenance budget or whatever it might be to balance the budget. Took the bus away. Gosh, that's probably been 8 years already at least. We used to have 2 buses in the budget. So it's some of those things we're starting to feel that, unfortunately, but those are some of the things that we hope we can go back, so.
And it's so, like, from my standpoint, for other board members, I think we really need to take a hard look at cost per pupil and whether or not the budget that the state is putting forward for us to work within our taxpayer dollars, if it's gonna be enough to really move us forward without a referendum. And if we want to move towards a referendum, if we want to see our kids succeed more, it's gonna happen by putting more dollars into the district, okay? And in order to do that, those dollars are gonna come from the taxpayers. So I would love to see us start to think about that as a group, because we're not gonna get something into a voting cycle until potentially next spring, right? So we're like a year out before anything like that could happen, but you've gotta invest in order to get more out of what you get, right? And you listen to the ladies talk about how we're kicking the can down the road. At some point, you gotta realize, like, either you're gonna buck up and you're gonna make a difference, or you're gonna live with the same results that you've had year after year after year, okay? So we're in a position where we can bring that to the community and let them make the decision. You have people that are quite vocal about how the district is doing. You have families that are quite happy with how the district is doing, how their kids are performing. So I think we need to let those people talk through a vote and let our administration and our our teachers and things come up with a dollar amount that makes sense to help us move forward. Because being the least cost district in the state is not, and I'm just throwing that up, I'm not saying that's what we are, but we are a low cost district, and low cost does not deliver high results,
So
in my opinion.
there was an article in WPR this morning on declining math scores across the state, and they point out Waukesha and Fond du Lac didn't. Their scores are going up, and they said, "What do you do?" They spend money. They invested straight up in curriculum, like $600K or something like that.
You can follow that same trend when you look at the national, for the state of Wisconsin. State of Wisconsin used to invest in education, one of the top 10, and we were one of the top 5 states in education. And now our spending is down about 25, and our achievement is down, I think it's in the teens somewhere. And so there's study after study after study that at some point.
I know you've heard me say it. Every year you do the presentation, you say, "Hey, look, we're asking for less money this year. That's great." And I'm sitting in the audience. No, that's not great, because if we want the numbers to go up, you have to invest in stuff. If you want to invest in this community, we have to invest in the community. Asking for money on a referendum is no easy task. And asking for it repeatedly is an even harder task. And then asking for it when there's an emergency and we need it is even harder. I agree completely. What needs to happen, in my opinion, is we need to be very concrete and clear in where that money's going to go. We already know that it's needed. I mean, we keep hearing about these numbers and how they're not good enough. I mean, I think every person on the board has heard it or said it or mentioned it, and we all want those to go up. I agree with Casey completely. There needs to be an increased investment to cover this stuff. You want to retain teachers? Pay the teachers. Inflation's 3% last year. Has their salary kept up with inflation? What about the year before? What about the year before that? Are you going to keep teachers? You got to pay them. I know Iftikhar's always like, "Let's give them a bonus." So, great. But numbers add up fast. So, what I would like, I mean, as soon as I'm on board, I'm like, how do we invest in the school? I'm not going to be on the board forever. While I'm on the board, I would like to invest in the school. That's what I like to try to do. I think Casey'd like to invest in the school. I think a lot of people would like to invest in the school. What we need to know is, it's easy for us to see this and say, okay, so increase the budget for the buildings. And you're like, well, we really need a bus. Like, that's where we need you.
And there's not one right answer, right?
I know, there's not one right answer. But if we can, I mean, and this is even what I said earlier with the teachers, like, what do you need? Yeah. And even if Carr said, are you short-staffed? What do you need? Where can we, as a school, invest? Because it's going to take years. This is not a thing where you're going to get a referendum, throw a bunch of money at it, it's going to get fixed. It's going to take years. Can you actually put in a referendum to pay for money for several years? Is this like, and so if the kids starting 4K now need to be in this program for years before we're going to start seeing results in Forest Street, that needs to move. I mean, that needs to move now. It's not going to get better. Does the school have knowledge about whether the community would support such a thing? Do we even have polling or data or even an inkling about whether anybody in the community wants that? Would they be willing to support this? Because we've seen referendums in nearby school districts go down.
There's several reasons for that too, that our community specifically has struggled with recently. I also think that aside from a referendum, there's also the fact that we have this spending cap that as a low spending district, and advocacy to address that system on a state level to try and like level the playing field and try and come up with a system that's more fairly allocated is another like step to take in terms of making sure our students are getting what they need, not what's left over.
Or funding the special education mandate properly.
Just a thought I have is, I believe, spending money on employees to hire the best employees and to retain them is very important to have a great school. One of the things that we struggle with the worst is attendance, and I don't know how we can throw money at something to fix attendance. It's just a thought.
So what I'm hearing from tonight's conversation is in front of, the first challenge for the admin team is to present to you a balanced budget for the 25-26 school year. That is step one, and step two is what are some of those costs associated with some of the levers that we think are going to be the highest impact to move our kids forward, right? And so it's both processes happening simultaneously. As you said, the first time that we could go to referendum would be April of 2026, but if we are going to engage our community along the way, which I think is absolutely critical to a successful referendum conversation, we have to start talking about it often and super clear about what those things are. And we might have ideas as to what we think some of those levers are. You might have different ideas, and the community might have still yet more different ideas, right? I don't have a great solution for you right now, Nick, but there are some things that money could help when it comes to attendance. And we've been talking about some student, I can't think of it, like peer panels at the high school where students are trained and they get to kind of be the jury or the for their peers when there are problems at school. Attendance could become a part of that. What does that need for money? It needs an adult with some training and some time that they can spend with those kids. So many of the levers involve people, because we're in the people business, right? If we want things to happen for kids, we need more people to be able to do those things. So I think that what you're asking us to do is present a balanced budget so that we are ready for the 25-26 school year, and also start building that list of some of the levers that we think would be high impact and share that out with you often and frequently. To answer your question about a survey, in the last, 2014 was the first one. Since then, we've had 2 successful referendums. We did a survey before
Building
the first
surveys,
one,
yeah.
and we listened to exactly what people said in that survey. We did exactly what they told us they would support, and they supported it. And in that survey, we also told them what phase 2 was going to be. It's when it came time for phase 2, we said, back here, you told us to do this, we did this, this was the next piece, you said, yep, and so then we passed that one. So I accept that we had 20 years, 7 failed referendums. That was our past in Black River Falls. Or you could say it's been 11 years and 2 past referendums in Black River Falls and work off of that.
Now, who put those packets together? I remember those school building surveys going out. I remember filling them out, being like,
that was a
all the
committee
things.
of, we started a community facilities task force, and we had some outside representatives, our business partners, help facilitate those conversations. And in my opinion, the reason that those referendums were successful, because those partners were at the table when someone said, well, what if we don't take 3rd Street down? What if we add on to all the buildings? We had the smart people there with all the information. They could say, that would cost you this much more. So then the community members stayed engaged because they could ask a question and get a real-time answer, as opposed to ask a question and then we'll schedule another meeting next month and we'll remember to answer that question that you asked before, right? So I think the key to getting community voice and involvement is making sure we can answer their questions immediately, and don't ask a question unless you're really gonna listen to the answer.
So the reason this is coming up now, I don't want this to seem out of the blue, but
It's
oh my
not.
God, we're gonna save money once on.
We've been talking about this.
Yeah,
Alexander,
on
it's
this,
not-
and do we have a bus? Like, what do we spend with it? Well, that's one windfall. Like, if it's budget time, we're gonna be hearing for the next 3 years, how do we bring scores up? How do we bring scores up? And the time to do that is at budgeting.
Absolutely.
So,
10 years ago.
what?
I said budgeting 10 years ago. Like, which, that's time for referendums.
I mean, we've,
Before
the community's supported a lot of investment into the facilities. I think it's time for us to open our eyes and start to invest into the individuals, not so much the buildings that they go to school in.
And those are
Going
visible.
forward.
Those are a little bit easier to ask, or people can understand a big building.
Sure, because
They
they live
it's
in
harder.
houses.
It's a lot more easy
We're
to
gonna have a lot
understand.
more work to convince people this other piece, but I think we're doing an injustice to our community and to our kids if we don't step up and bring something to the table that they can make a decision on. And if in the end they tell us go pound sand, we're not supporting it, well, fine, I tried.
I think
And so
that's the advantage to being a baby board, is that we're energetic and ready to rock and roll. And
I don't know. I mean, you don't.
Let's do
I
it.
guess in life you
You're
fail more just as
energetic.
easily, so
You're ready to rock and roll.
lessons are made by failures.
Don't ever ask, they're certainly never gonna happen,
So,
right?
exactly.
Jill,
So,
how much we spend on each student? 11,000? Per pupil, per student, how much we invest?
Well, I think there's $19 million there, and there's about 1,650
Yeah, so each
students.
student, we are spending 11,000?
That's how much we get. We
Yeah,
get.
in
That's how
base
much we students.
revenue though, it's even more
This
complicated.
this is revenue per student. This isn't how much we spend per student.
Okay.
There's
This
a
is
lot
the
of
total
different formulas for spending per student. Do you take into account facilities? Do you take into account transportation? Because that's a different factor for every, Holman has 12 square miles, or I'm sorry, Onalaska has 12 square miles. They don't spend near what we spend per student on transportation, right? So there's lots of different formulas, but this is revenue per member, just in the revenue limit.
Yeah, revenue limit. So since we have, this is a brand new DPI numbers, K through 12, 1,603 students. If I multiply 1,603 with 11,000 is a $17,600,000. You have 19,048,000.
That's 1,682 though.
yeah.
Right, because there's a 3-year average, so that's not this year's number of kids, that's a 3-year average, so you can't.
Remember that slide?
Yes, no, I understand. If it is an average, it has to be up and down, so that is fair. So these $19 million will be used for the education, teacher salaries, staff salaries and custodians and heating the buildings.
Every single thing we do.
Every, a photocopy machine, everything included in that.
Yeah, and we
No,
can't
not
up
everything.
it over that because it's a revenue limit that caps what we can spend.
What we get.
So this is the total budget to run a school entirely, including photocopy machines and everything.
It is not. This is the total revenue that we get from the revenue limit. So we get other revenue outside the revenue limit, like interest earnings on investments, like admissions to football games.
Grants. Grants that are written.
Grants, Title I, all those kinds of things. Those are other revenues. Our Fund 10 budget is more like $22 million, $23 million. But some of those are grants or entitlements that we get from the federal or state.
If you think about it, revenue strategy is like a wheel, and then each different thing is a spoke. This is one of the spokes on a big wheel of revenue.
I received a paper a couple of board meetings ago that budget for the education only. That money will be not used for the buses or heating of the school or anything else, only for education. It means teacher salaries and students' books, pencil or whatever they use, and calculators. So I will show you that paper which I received a couple of months ago.
So how would you spend money on education for children if they never show up?
Oh no, we are talking about not so many variable that what is going on. We are talking about how much we invest on each student or how much taxpayers are paying for each student education, not the buses or anything else.
But that's all part of it.
That's part of the education.
You can't.
That's
get
a part of
an
education?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can't get an education if you don't get the building.
Therefore, I'm asking Jill. So that is a part of education.
There are different, so I don't know what resources you're looking at. There are different formulas out there that sometimes includes facility costs. And that could include our payments that we're paying for the debt that we have on our facilities, right? Or it could be transportation, or it could be food service. So it just depends on what formula you're looking at and what cost per student. There's lots of different costs per student. But typically they include electricity and all those things because you gotta pay some of those fixed costs to educate the kids too.
Okay. So I will show you the paper which I have.
That would be great, and I know what you're looking for.
I received here. It clearly says per member. So I asked that question, what is member? She said, member means one student. And the amount was $14,826.
And that may include, like I said, our debt service payments, things like that, that we're paying for our buildings, you know, the loans that we got for our facility improvements.
It also includes two other things, a Pfizer fund and ESSER fund, altogether $14,826.
I think I know what you're talking about now, I remember
So
that.
I did
But-
ask back then from Sherry Severson, is this money per member will be used for the only education or sports or any other activities? She says it's only for education, not for the sports. Those are the separate funds.
If you could share that with me so I could see what you're looking at.
Yeah, I might have
Better.
studied wrong, but I will share with you so we can come up with the conclusion.
Sure.
Thank you to initiate this discussion.
I think that was Casey. I just jumped on it.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. We initiate on your dedication towards the.
One other thing I
education.
just wanted to point out real quickly is you kind of were alluding to, and I think Michaela said it, about advocacy at the state level. One of the items that the district enjoyed the benefit of, I would say, that did increase our per pupil amount for the revenue limit was the low revenue ceiling increase in 23-24. We were able to add $540 per student. So $325 was the per member increase. We got to add, because we are a low spending district and we are low in the revenue limit formula, we got to add another $540 per student to go up to the $11,000. So that was 2 years for 23-24. So that's still being talked about out there. There's proposals being floated about that, about having that low revenue ceiling increase again as well. So that would be certainly something that would help us, as well as the special education increase in funding.
So if something like that happens and it comes in, how fast do you have to use it?
It becomes part of your next year's budget cycle.
Okay.
The only problem, I guess not problem, the challenge, what happens if they give you more revenue limit, if they don't also increase the amount of aid that's coming to you, then that all goes on the taxpayer too, right? So, because aid and property taxes have an inverse relationship. If they don't give you more aid, which they did that year, they helped us out. They knew that everybody was gonna be increasing their revenue limit. More aid was put into the pot of money sent out to districts as well, so.
Did that have anything to do with the reduction in ESSER funds?
Maybe that was part of the.
Maybe it's part of the thought, but.
So there's a group that we're part of, it's called Equity in Education Funding, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I've shared some of the maps with you guys before, and it shows the all the districts that are considered low spenders, and then it shows the gap between the low spenders and the highest spenders. I put a note to put that back in the packet for next month, so we can look at it again, because it talks about if they continue to raise up that ceiling where we're at, if they keep raising that up, they're closing the gap between the highest spenders and the lowest spenders. And so their goal is that all school districts in the state of Wisconsin are within 10% of spending. Right now, our revenue limit is the 11,325, and some of our neighbors are at like 14,000. So multiply that by 1,600 kids, that's an awful lot of money, right? And so this organization that we're part of keeps advocating for that gap to get smaller and smaller between the high spending and the low spending. So I will reshare those maps with you, because I thought they were super informative to just see each school district colored in by the color of what they're spending.
But that reduction would have to go through the state legislature.
100%.
So
It's a legislative
waiting
act.
for that to happen is not necessarily the fastest
So
thing.
it definitely is not, and that is us counting on legislative advocacy and other groups that are doing that advocacy, whereas that is certainly something that you guys could take into your own hands through referendum.
And just so we're clear, this year is unique in that there's no fall election, so the deadline for spring referendum is passed. There is no fall election, so April of 26th, the first time that we have the opportunity to be on the ballot. So that's both good and bad, right? It takes a long time for anything to happen, but successful referendums start early, right? So it gives the board a lot of time.
I think one other piece that would be nice to see is if you look at districts of similar size, I'm not talking, I'm talking like pupils.
Enrollment, not
yeah.
geography.
Like what their per student spending average is across the state, so we can at least say, hey, you know, like this is everybody that has just as many kids as we do, and this is what they're investing in each one of those youth compared to what we're doing, and then we can.
If it would be agreeable, there's quite some heavy lifting for the admin team to present a balanced budget to you by the end of March. If some of this could happen after that balanced budget piece, that would be great timing for us to be able to get the balanced piece done first and then start working on some of this comparative data.
And what I'd like to also do is give you more that forecasts, not just next year, but out, you know, the next 3 years with the best information we know, right?
Well, you're still available, Joe, whatever you can provide.
Well,
Did you want to put it out to July?
I'll say June.
Is it possible, but can we keep it in mind that there's the potential to move forward there when we're doing budgets?
Can we actually set a date? Can we have a motion to like, or set a date, like we want to have a proposal for if we're gonna have a referendum, we didn't know what's needed so that we can run a campaign to advocate for that. Because there's a whole bunch of planning, like you said.
Ready for you, for sure.
If you can tell a voter in the district, look, what this is gonna cost you is $30 a year or something like that, and here's everything you can get for that. Imagine what you're gonna spend that $30 on and how it could help the entire community. That is something that you can develop, that's something you can sell, but you can't do that quickly.
If I could just offer, I'm going to remind everyone that we also use the defeasance strategy in our levy. And so that means that there's some wiggle room there. It is very possible that we put this list together and the added cost is zero. That is very feasible with the amount of defeasance that this board has been using the last couple of years.
That's to pay down debt on things like that.
So we've been, the board has taken the strategy to kind of control the mill rate instead of letting it drop completely and then bounce back, drop completely. They've held it steady while also letting it slowly decline.
Yeah.
And so each one of those dips could have gone down much further. We've kept it up here. Which means we've levied for that money to pay off that debt sooner, but there's that gap in there that if we were just paying off exactly what we owed each year, then we wouldn't have that opportunity. But for example, when we did our second referendum, the second building referendum, $23 million, it was zero added for taxpayers because of that defeasance strategy. So I'm saying there's room, and then it's just gonna be a matter of great communication and prioritization. So.
Which also costs money.
Yeah, and like you said, if this is something that you have to do after balancing your budget, and I'm sure you have many other things to do, and then it's gonna take us, or whoever needs to sell this a long time, we need to get the ball rolling now so that you guys know it's coming down the pipe.
That's why I'm bringing it up when I am, because I know that if we're
I don't wanna kick
after
the
something like
can.
this, we gotta start.
Yeah, I don't wanna kick the can and
I would like to challenge
say.
you guys to think about a little bit about process. I would like for you to think about, do you want a community advisory committee helping with this? Do you want just recommendations from the admin team and a subgroup from here? I would love for you to start thinking about process, because that will help us plan backwards, right? So by January, we would have to have a board vote to be on the April ballot. We want to be talking about it and have a good idea from our community well before that, right? We don't want it on the ballot if we are sure the community's not going to support it. So that means December or November, right?
Yep.
And so we also don't want to be talking about it for 8 months and people are like, when already, right? And so I feel like you need to decide, start thinking about process. Do you want a community advisory committee? Then we should reach out to those people this summer and August have them ready to rock and roll. And then we work hard for a couple months and bring a final proposal to the board in December for your vote. And
Give us some recommendations about what was effective with a few earlier referendums that worked.
Yeah.
You know, and let's
And stick to the schedule. What was the schedule? Why reinvent the wheel? What has worked? Who was involved?
And an operational referendum is different than a capital referendum too.
Yeah.
A little bit harder.
everyone understands you have to replace your roof every now and then. It's a little bit more challenging for them to understand the costs.
How much of the, so in the past, how much of the referendum processes was the board responsible for?
The board elected a representative to that community facility committee. They had 2 representatives, and those people came to every one of the meetings that Jill and I facilitated with our business partners, and then every single month there was an update to the full board at the monthly board meetings. There was some community listening sessions in which the full board came, not as a board to take action, but as listening in the audience kind of thing.
Yeah, it's okay to give a try with the referendum.
I know that you want to up scores.
Oh, yes.
And I know that I want to up scores.
Yes.
And I'd like to do it, in the next 3-5 years. Let's get this moving. Things take time.
Yeah, it takes time.
And so,
one referendum we passed for the Red Creek School. That referendum passed after 3rd attempt. Twice it failed under the wrong kind. And then you came after that. It passed on the third attempt.
First.
No, but before you.
Those were different referendums. They weren't for an elementary school. It was
Weren't?
no.
So when you came, first attempt, it passed.
Yeah.
Red Creek School.
Correct.
And that was well put together. I remember when that came through.
Can you do a presentation for us on the logistics of the,
Yeah.
Just because when we fail one, there's then the inability to then go back and do it again. So I think understanding that in its entirety before we jump is, not that I'm not willing to jump, I'll close my eyes and jump, but I'd like to at least know what the pool looks like a little bit.
And campaign is important.
Yep.
Accurate information.
Accurate information
And
on the postcard, a little postcard. I can go distribute in Walmart, parking lot of Burger King, parking lot of McDonald's.
This is our plan. We're going to take your car and we're going to put you in the Walmart parking lot.
Yes, no, this is how I do my campaign. This is how I do my campaign.
Frustrate the Girl Scouts. We'll be all right.
Oh my gosh.
So we have to distribute the information, let them know this is good for the community.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll make sure you have lots of flyers. Okay.
A lot of flyers.
I don't have anything else except that we will bring back budget recommendations at our next board meeting, March 24th, right?
Okay.
And we will get that all out to you ahead of time with lots of information. And if you can vote that night, that'd be great. And if we
And you
need more
can
time,
call either one of us with questions leading up to that. All of that is 100% fair game because we want you to feel informed and as prepared as possible.
And then that would be considered a preliminary budget. I would bring it back again in June, not that you're really voting on it again in June, but you'll have more information in June, all of the different funds, not just, we're really focusing on Fund 10 here and 27, which is our general operations and special ed. And then, so that's our preliminary budget before July 1st. And then October, we get the final numbers and we set a final budget, annual meeting, all of that kind of stuff. So, all right.
Questions about the preliminary budget?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We do not need action on this. The next one, the budget center allocations, we don't have to take action, but we should take action on this.
Yes, principals would appreciate it.
This just allows them to
Building
begin,
center.
right, to begin building building budgets.
Yep, and as I mentioned, 5% increase, this is how their per pupil amounts shake out. The high school has a little bit higher per pupil amount because they have all the tech ed classes, they have the foods classes, they have athletics and other things as well. The middle school has some of that, but not at the same extent. And then the elementaries are a little bit lower amount. So again, just taking those per pupil amounts, multiplying by their estimated enrollment for next year, and comes up with the changes compared to this year's building allocations. A high school will be dipping again because of that senior class that's leaving, so. And I'd be looking for a motion.
I motion to approve.
I'll second. Or Alex can.
All right. Further discussion on the budget center allocations?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is the second reading of the whole stack of policies.
If they're at the point of motion to approve them.
Yeah, we need it, yep, again, we
So
need a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve
Okay,
policies as written.
I'll second that one. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Discussion is gone. I would like to have discussion.
On the policies?
Yeah.
Okay.
So discussion is who wrote these neat and nice things?
Neola?
You did it?
We've talked about this at
Neola, the I voted for you, so somebody can pitch in. So this is a law firm?
Nope. No, it's a company that facilitates school board policy. They have attorneys that work for them.
Okay. So I like one thing so very much, philosophy of the board. It will be very difficult for you to find it. It clearly says maintain two-way of communication with the citizens of the district. So we have to involve our people.
Did you come to the storytelling night? I think they're inviting you. I just don't think you're showing up because I came and you weren't there.
Yeah, then nobody invited me.
Yeah, you got an email. You were on the email.
No, I was in Florida.
So you're being invited to things. You just gotta show up.
No, I do show up in different places, but I was in Florida for 18 days. 18 days is a big deal. So I had to go Key West. Well.
Okay, let's move on.
Is there discussion or just talking?
I would like to talk one point of it, just one point. If it is not too much for you folks.
No, it depends, like, is it about how the policy is written, or is it just to make a statement about what we're not doing to follow the policy?
Yeah, we are not going to follow the policy.
Okay, like right now, what we're talking about is how the policy is written, and are we okay with it, or are we not? Not whether we're doing it.
No, I am majority okay with it.
Okay.
All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have one set of minutes. Again, those are in your packet. Any amendments or changes to that?
Make a motion to approve minutes.
All right.
Second.
Written. You second. Nick second. Okay. All right. Discussion on that one?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? District admin report?
I have a couple things to highlight. First of all, DPI just released some curriculum that has been facilitated for, it's been an ongoing process on tribal sovereignty. They created some model lessons, and of the team of teachers from throughout the state that worked on it, there were 3 Black River Falls teachers that were a part of it, and DPI has just released them as a model for all schools to use. So congratulations to Tony Berger, Eli Young Thunder, and Ariel Hall. Even though she's no longer our teacher, she still works with our kids, and so we'll share appreciation with her as well. So that is a source of significant pride. When you talk to a lot of other communities, if they talk about tribal education, we are often lifted as a model. So I think that was fantastic and exciting. Julie Tiedens and her yearbook work, the Tiger, the Breeze, is being held as the model. The sales rep who goes around to sell yearbooks to other schools is going to have a copy of our high school yearbook along as his model. Julie's gotten a certificate of excellence for her work with them. I don't know if the Tiger Tribune has been in the paper yet. We got them downstairs. Did it come out in the shopper? Oh my goodness, that formatting is so attractive. She did a fantastic job. That is all Julie Tiedens and her marketing intern. So super, super excited about the work that they're doing. That was the Tiger Tribune. And just tonight, I got a call from the township of Brockway They have completed a quit claim deed. We now own the entire school forest. We are no longer a 1/4 owner, we own 4/4 of that school forest. And so if I recall, the board's next step was that you wanted me to go to the county and talk to the county about what they were interested in us posting or not posting. So that I didn't even realize that Brockway was acting on it. I got a call and they said, I got this quit claim deed, do you want a copy? I said, I sure do. So we now own the school forest. That is all. Oh, and I did want to talk just briefly. I included this sheet from WTC in your board packet. I always find this so interesting. They had their K-12 administrators breakfast again. And when you look at the amount of credits that our students have earned while being high school students, it is just absolutely impressive. Our goal would be that all students graduate high school with some post-secondary credits already successfully under their belt. And I've talked so many times about our CTE teachers doing such a great job with those articulated credits. You're going to be hearing a lot more about some of the career pathways and all kinds of opportunities that our kids take advantage of. This is just from Western Technical College, pardon me. There are other examples as well, but they put together this nice one-pager and I thought I would share it for your information. That is all that I have for you this evening.
Thank you. You're welcome. WASB and other.
There's a conference happening next week on the 27th, and I am attending. If anybody wants to go with me, that'd be awesome.
Do you know the topic?
What?
Do you know the topic of that one? Is
Law.
it a law?
It's
Okay.
law and policy.
All right.
What city is going?
Key West.
Key West?
Marty, do you remember
Oh,
what
no.
Elkhart Lake? Yeah, it's, I don't know where that is.
It's over by Fond du Lac.
You said the 27th?
Yes.
It's towards Florida, I think.
Key West? I visited his house, Ernest Hemingway. Haves and have not. Old Man and the Sea. For whom the bell tolls.
That's Metallica.
For whom the bell tolls.
Any other conference or workshop attendance?
Can I just say that if anybody else is interested in the law
Yeah.
conference, let me know and I can register you and go out.
For board connection opportunities, I want to emphasize that Jen Dahl sent us an email, I think maybe that came through today. At the library on Saturday, is that right, 10 to 12? We have some student art on display. So we're in the midst of the Adaptive Sports League they had a competition today. They couldn't make it, but they've got several of them in this next few weeks here, so another good.
And you sent out the email on the playoffs too. And
Yep.
where kids are going to be participating.
So we are in the postseason for winter sports. So
That must mean spring is coming.
right. So we should mention for all that didn't catch it earlier in the meeting, we will not have school tomorrow, and it looks like none of our surrounding schools are having school as well. So it's gonna be a cold one in the morning. Future agenda items.
Yes, I have a 4 point for the future agenda.
Okay.
Number 1, I requested last time, but we did not put it in the future agenda in the past. To record and live feed public comments. Public comment is for the board members. So this will be a future agenda, so we board could talk about it and we can vote that public comment should be recorded so I can revisit in home what they are talking to me.
So per Robert's rules, right, you were in the minority on that vote, so you cannot bring that item up again.
So I am out.
It would take somebody that voted in the majority or that was not on the board at the time to reconsider. You may not bring that forward.
So that happened like in a previous board meeting or previous board members. They are not today with us. Mary Jo and Thomas.
So their seats may bring that up, but you may not.
Do you want to understand it is important? Why don't you bring it up?
Because I take notes during it.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I'm not bringing it up. No, sorry.
Okay. You do?
I don't want it recorded.
No.
It just becomes like a soapbox.
Jeanette, you want public comment should be
I
recorded?
voted against it.
You are in the favor or against?
I voted against it. I was in the minority.
Oh.
So I don't have a say.
How about Dr. Alex
Unless we
Wood?
vote again.
I'll pass for now, thank you.
You don't want to be recorded?
No, not particularly.
But this comment is for you.
The comment we heard today?
Yeah.
We don't need to see that one again.
I heard it.
I heard it well.
You heard it well?
Yeah.
Okay, how about,
So are there other future agenda items that anyone wants to?
let's ask Dick Helston.
Yeah, I know Casey's brought up attendance a few times, and we were gonna talk about that in the future. I think that'd be a good one to talk to. Agreed?
Yeah, I think that, like, from my standpoint, if we get there on the policy piece, because we can affect that, like,
right.
we could just accelerate looking at the policy associated with that, if we can.
Okay.
So we get that there.
Yeah, okay. Otherwise, I just was gonna ask, what about attendance did you wanna talk about? Because this fall, we had each of the schools talk about what they're doing to impact, so you're talking about
I guess
policy.
if there's any like policy that we
Okay.
could do
Yeah,
Got it.
so like,
improve upon.
if we can get
Policy
that
side, got it.
escalated, we'll be able to review it and then bring it forward.
Even
so
if it's just an example of what has another school district done to actually improve their numbers. Maybe there's another school district.
So
improve their
the buildings all presented on all that this fall, we can certainly bring that back, but they're talking about board policy that talks about attendance and what our action steps would be, so,
Donuts or something?
If you go to conferences, it goes over all of that, like, you get to see all the different school districts and their initiatives and all of the statistics statewide. So I brought some material back from I brought them back from 2 of the conferences I've gone to. We can review some of that, because that's like, they're even doing a national like survey to everybody, to try and fix it, because it's not just an us problem, it's an everywhere problem. So I think because we've had it presented before, I think it makes more sense to do a little bit of research on our own to kind of bring those back to the table and look at it from.
See our policy and decide
Yeah.
if we can affect it through policy. 'Cause that's really
So
what
I
we're
think
doing, so.
like attendance is important because I think once the kids graduate too, it could trickle down to the workforce.
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely. And,
you know,
you're well aware, Nick, right? All local employers are struggling with attendance as well.
Yeah.
If you have materials
Yeah.
from those, Michaela, you can just pass those off to Shelley if they need scanned or emailed, and then she can share it with the board as a whole.
Okay, I
as
think
well.
I handed one of them off to you already, but I can.
To me?
Yeah. But it's fine. I'll look through my
just-
stuff still.
I don't believe so.
Okay,
A
I'll look through my
handout
stuff
on
again then.
attendance?
Yeah, I had handed it to you at a meeting, but it's okay. I'll look through my stuff and see if I still have
you
it.
can be the QR code.
And I gave you the QR code. Okay, so there's 2 of the things, but doing a little bit of research on our own isn't probably a bad idea.
And another, I wanted to place it on the future agenda. Last time we had a DPI report for Michaela B. And we were clear we did not break the law. But there is another DPI report she sent to all
So you want
board
the follow-up.
members.
Got it.
And
Follow-up.
that has to be an agenda so we can discuss about it, how many laws we have violated.
I will share the DPI report. I will not do what you just said, but I will share the DPI report.
I have read it.
Perfect. And you've already seen it.
So that will be in the future.
Got it.
She sent it to everybody.
Great.
Yeah. Send it to you too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this will be in the future agenda to
Yep.
discuss.
I have it down.
Yep.
Okay, thank
You can do
you.
the
And
follow-up.
third thing is, we had a special meeting about DPI and iReady test of this special meeting. Not a single person showed up and we did not even record. I cannot even revisit anything because the special meetings cannot be recorded. So I would like to have in a future agenda, this DPI report has to be explained once again, plus iReady test.
You want to have another meeting just like the last meeting?
And
on
it has
those?
to be watched by the parents. We are public's representatives. So this is very important. They are right now watching us.
They can go get that data at any time.
If they can do everything, then why they send us here? We are going to analyze. So this is my future.
Could we put on the agenda to republicize the link to that information so that concerned parents can review it? Because it's true, not everybody might know where to find that
I mean,
again.
we're recording right now. We just tell them.
Yeah.
This is a detailed information. A lot of information is here. So as a board member, I would like to request for the future agenda, DPI plus iReady test. We will revisit, let the parents watch.
I'm gonna ask the full board if we were gonna take another meeting to redo things that we've already taken a meeting for, when we've already given all these ideas of new topics that the board hasn't already discussed. And so I will just ask the full board to.
Let's ask the full board and you know how they are with me.
It is not with you.
No, you will
It is
see
with
how they
topics
will
that
work
we've already
against me.
discussed. It's not.
I am
against
all
you,
about
it's for efficiency of time.
I'm all about the data, let the parents watch. We are not supposed to hide this information.
We're not hiding it.
And therefore you are avoiding to talk about it on the screen and live feed to almost 3,000 people.
They can go online and go back to that meeting and look at it. It's
Jeanette, you had an agenda.
It was not recorded.
If the card, please.
Special meetings are not
Jeanette,
recorded.
Can we put on the agenda, expulsion meeting and discuss being able to obtain like 20 minutes prior to the meeting like we did in the past where we could read?
But legal counsel has advised us not to do that.
He said we were the only ones that were doing it before that, and then he finally talked Brad into saying, we're not doing it anymore.
Because it's, we're not in the closed session yet, so we shouldn't be viewing those materials.
And his
viewing
other-
or discussing, yeah.
His other point was that you're supposed to be listening to the testimony, not relying on the papers. So if we're gonna have the family and have the administration talk, it should be about those things, not necessarily the paper. But I absolutely understand how you get all this stuff and then don't look at it because we're
Yeah,
talking,
'cause
I
it's hard
understand that.
So let's have a vote or what do you want?
So what's your question?
My question is, this DPI result and I-ready test will be displayed and let the people watch.
Okay, are any board members interested in repeating the last board meeting?
Like what we did.
Which was not recorded. Please complete the sentence. Which was not recorded.
Which was not recorded.
I don't know if I have patience to listen to you talk about data over and over and over again.
Thank you for representing the parents. Yes, sir, Dr. Alex Wood.
No, we handled
So
that
if the
pretty
car,
well.
if the car, I will run the meeting, thank you.
Okay, good.
Do any board members have any interest in repeating the board meeting from 2 weeks ago?
Live. Please say the complete sentence.
While being recorded? Okay, I'm seeing none, so we will not repeat that. Okay, any other agenda items for future? All right.
Can I just add,
Yep.
the adaptive sports,
Yep.
that, can we have a discussion about that and following, that would be part of the athletic department? Because I need to look a little bit more into it, something about it being part of in the state bylaws or statutes. There's something about where the adaptive sports falls under the athletic department for those who,
Like the rules, the code of conduct and that kind of stuff?
yeah,
Yeah.
so also fall under where they would be able to letter
Oh.
under that.
I think that would be a local decision is what I think. We just met with Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Osagard to talk about, because this first year they were kind of trial basis, right? And a lot of grant funded, and we just met to make it part of our regular budget so that he
Okay,
doesn't have
perfect. I
to
was
do
gonna
the
think that.
fundraising each year. And Mr. Osagard was there because we do think it should become part of the athletic department,
Yeah,
so.
thank you,
Yeah.
I'm
Is that
glad
what you're
to
looking
hear
for?
that.
Okay.
The other thing, I brought up last year about last fall about the cheerleaders.
Cheerleaders. So usually
What is
in
that?
June, Mr. Osagard comes to the board meeting and talks about participation, his new handbook, all of that stuff. So when you talk about lettering, it made me think that should happen as part of that meeting in June when he's here to talk about the handbook. But the cheerleading uniforms, I most certainly can do a check-in on, and let you know when I find out.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know, did they do any additional fundraising?
I don't know.
I just got a fundraising request for cheerleaders, so.
Okay, I couldn't tell you,
we just worked with Andy on that, it was last week email.
Okay.
And I have one more item for future agenda. Newsletters from school, from high school, middle school, for Red Creek School. I've been reading the newsletters. We could discuss about the newsletter, why they are missing the critical information.
If you have feedback for the
communication
principals, perhaps we could just have a conversation about that. I think that their intentions are fantastic in communicating with families. If you have some critical feedback, perhaps we could just privately take care of that, unless you feel the need to publicly.
Publicly. We are public people.
And so you don't like something that they're saying and you would rather do that here
No,
as opposed
I
to
love
just
what
fix
they are
it?
saying it, but one portion they are missing it.
Why don't you just send them an email or something?
Exactly. Just
You know, like, can you
treat them
please include this
respectfully.
in the
Okay,
newsletter?
I will send you a
Perfect.
private email
That'd be
that
fantastic.
they could add one more portion into their newsletter. Newsletter is amazing. Everything is truth, correct information and truth. But there is much more truth to be said. So I will send you the email.
And then we will consider whether they make changes to their newsletter. Because
Of
it's not a
course.
newsletter from you, it's their newsletter to their
They get to
families.
decide what's.
Yeah, they have to decide how much they want to tell.
Hey, don't you have a newsletter or something? Hey,
I issue my
how
newsletter.
come you don't ever send that to me? Aren't you a public person?
Okay, I'll send it to you. I cannot send the whole forum. I will send you individually.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other future agenda items?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Please,
All
somebody.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nobody opposed.
We're adjourned.
Oh, by the way, you get an extra $100 now, you said?
Yeah.
Talk to Brad and see what he does.
The first one, I think that was only kind of one of these, they didn't do it withheld.
I have been collecting.
No, I-